Are we alone in our minds? In the quiet of this moment, feel the familiar presence of your own mind. The stream of thoughts, the subtle emotions, the undeniable feeling of being here now. This inner world, this subjective experience, is the bedrock of our reality. For most of human history, we have acted under the powerful and perhaps arrogant assumption that this inner light is a uniquely human possession. We have seen animals as biological machines, as creatures of pure instinct, as other. But is this true? As we look into the eyes of a dog, a dolphin, or an elephant, we often feel a flicker of recognition, a sense that there is someone looking back. Is this just sentimental projection, a form of anthropomorphism? Or is it an intuitive acknowledgement of a shared truth, that we are not alone in our minds? The question of animal consciousness and intelligence is one of the most profound and rapidly evolving frontiers in all of science and philosophy. It challenges our long-held sense of human exceptionalism and forces us to confront the ethical and moral implications of our relationship with the other beings who share this planet. Our journey over the next 3 hours will be a gentle exploration of this vast and mysterious territory. We will begin by delving into the deep philosophical debate surrounding the problem of animal consciousness. How can we ever truly know what another being is experiencing, especially one that cannot speak our language? We will explore classic thought experiments like, what is it like to be a bat? That highlight the profound challenge of understanding a truly alien subjective experience. From there, we will move from the philosophical to the scientific, examining the ingenious methods researchers have developed to probe the inner lives of animals. We will look at the famous mirror test, a controversial but fascinating benchmark for self-awareness, and see which animals seem to recognize themselves as individuals. We will explore the evidence for theory of mind in other species, the ability to understand that others have their own beliefs, desires, and perspectives, a capacity once thought to be uniquely human, but now being found in primates, corvids, and perhaps others. We will then embark on a tour of some of the most remarkable minds in the animal kingdom. We will listen for the complex, perhaps even grammatical language of dolphins and whales. We will marvel at the astonishing problem-solving abilities and feathered ape intelligence of crows and other corvids. We will journey into the deep ocean to contemplate the truly alien mind of an octopus, a creature whose intelligence evolved on a completely separate branch of life, offering a glimpse of what a non-mammalian consciousness might be like. We will witness the deep emotional lives of elephants, exploring the evidence for their capacity for grief, memory, and complex social bonds. Our exploration will also touch upon the moral and cultural lives of animals. We will ask if there is evidence for animal morality, for innate senses of fairness and empathy. We will explore the concept of animal culture, the passing down of traditions and learned behaviors from one generation to the next. We will investigate the profound mystery of animal navigation, the intricate art of animal tool use, and the universal nature of animal play. Finally, we will turn the lens back upon ourselves. We will grapple with the limits of our own understanding, the ever-present danger of anthropomorphism, of projecting our own human qualities onto animals. We will consider the profound ethical implications of this research for our relationship with all non-human beings, and the emerging concept of animal personhood. And we will conclude by contemplating our own place in the vast, interconnected web of consciousness, a web that may be far wider and more diverse than we have ever imagined. The mindfuck at the heart of this entire exploration is the radical decentering of the human. If consciousness and complex intelligence are not unique to us, but are widespread properties of the animal kingdom, then our entire understanding of ourselves and our place in nature must be revised. It transforms animals from objects in our world into fellow subjects, fellow minds, with whom we share the experience of existence. This is not just a scientific update, it is a profound ethical and spiritual shift. This journey is not intended to provide definitive answers, for many of these questions remain at the forefront of scientific research. Instead, it is an invitation to cultivate a state of deep wonder, empathy, and intellectual humility. It is an opportunity to quiet the noisy human-centric chatter of our conscious minds and to listen, with a new kind of attention, to the silent, profound, and mysterious inner lives of the other beings who inhabit our world. As you continue to fall asleep, let go of the idea of the animal as a simple instinct-driven machine. Instead, open your mind to the possibility of a world filled with countless different kinds of minds, each with its own unique way of perceiving and experiencing reality, a world of non-human consciousness and intelligence. find deep relaxation in the sense of a richer, more populated, and more mysterious planet. Resting peacefully, feeling yourself not as a master of nature, but as one conscious being among a vast and beautiful community of minds. The problem of animal consciousness, the philosophical debate. Before we can explore the scientific evidence for the animal mind, we must first grapple with a profound philosophical challenge that lies at the very foundation of our inquiry. This is the problem of animal consciousness. The problem is not necessarily whether animals are conscious. Most of us who have lived with a pet dog or cat have a strong intuition that they are. The problem is, how could we ever know for sure? And what would it even mean for an animal to be conscious? This philosophical debate forces us to confront the deep limits of our own knowledge and the immense difficulty of accessing a subjective experience that is not our own, especially one that exists across the species barrier. It is a psychology mystery that is less about animals and more about the nature of consciousness itself and the challenge of knowing other minds. Contemplating this deep epistemological puzzle is a crucial first step, a way of cultivating the intellectual humility needed for our journey, inviting deep relaxation as you fall asleep. The debate has a long and often dark history in Western thought. For centuries, influenced by philosophers like René Descartes, the prevailing view was that animals were mere automata, complex biological machines without souls, feelings, or any genuine inner experience. Descartes famously argued that while humans possess a rational mind, residential cogitans, animals are just physical matter, residential extensa. He believed that their cries of pain were nothing more than the mechanical creaking of a machine, devoid of any actual subjective feeling of suffering. This view, while now seen as extreme and ethically troubling, provided a powerful philosophical justification for the exploitation of animals, and it highlights the starting point from which the modern debate has evolved. At the heart of the problem is the fact that consciousness is, by its very nature, private and first-personal. I know I am conscious directly, through my own immediate experience. But my knowledge of your consciousness is indirect. It is an inference I make based on your behavior, your language, and the assumption that because you are a human being like me, your inner world is probably similar to mine. This is the problem of other minds, which we have explored in a human context. When we extend this problem to animals, the challenge becomes exponentially greater. The argument from analogy, our primary tool for justifying belief in other human minds, becomes weaker when applied to animals. The argument relies on similarity. The more similar another being is to me in its biology and behavior, the more confident I can be in my inference that it has a similar inner life. This works reasonably well for other humans and perhaps for our close primate relatives. But what about an octopus? An octopus has a profoundly different neuroanatomy, with a decentralized nervous system and an evolutionary history that diverged from ours hundreds of millions of years ago. The analogy between our brain and its brain is much weaker. What about a bee with its tiny ganglion of nerves? Can we make any meaningful analogy at all? The further a creature is from us on the evolutionary tree, the less we can rely on simple analogy to infer its conscious state. This leads to the famous thought experiment proposed by philosopher Thomas Nagel in his essay, What Is It Like to Be a Bat? Nagel argues that even if we knew every single physical and neurological fact about a bat, how its sonar works, how its brain processes echoes, how it flies, we would still never know what it is like from the inside to be a bat. We would never know the subjective character of its experience, the qualia of perceiving the world through echolocation. This subjective reality is accessible only from the bat's own point of view. The thought experiment is designed to show the limits of objective third-person science in capturing the essence of first-person, subjective consciousness, whether human or non-human. It suggests that the inner world of an animal might be not just unknown, but fundamentally unknowable and incommunicable to us. So, how do philosophers and scientists try to navigate this profound mystery? They often adopt a more pragmatic and evidence-based approach, moving away from the demand for absolute philosophical proof and towards a standard of inference to the best explanation. While we can never directly experience an animal's consciousness, we can look for markers or indicators that are strongly associated with consciousness in humans, and see if they are present in animals. One such marker is complex behavior. Animals exhibit a vast range of complex, flexible, and seemingly purposeful behaviors that go far beyond simple, rigid instincts. The intricate tool use of crows, the complex social strategies of dolphins, the problem-solving abilities of octopuses, these behaviors are difficult to explain as the workings of a mindless automaton. The best explanation for such flexible, intelligent behavior, many argue, is that it is guided by some form of conscious awareness and thought. Another marker is neurophysiological similarity. We know that in humans, consciousness is associated with a complex, centralized nervous system, particularly the thalamocortical complex. Many other animals, especially mammals and birds, possess homologous brain structures that are active during waking states and show similar patterns of activity. While the structure is not identical, the similarity in the hardware provides a strong, analogous basis for inferring a similarity in the software, the presence of conscious experience. A third, and perhaps most compelling marker is evolutionary continuity. Humans did not appear out of nowhere, we evolved from other animal species. It would be a strange and unparsimonious form of special creation to assume that consciousness, in its entirety, suddenly blinked into existence with the arrival of Homo sapiens. It is far more likely, from an evolutionary perspective, that consciousness is not a binary all-or-nothing property, but a graded phenomenon that evolved gradually. Our complex form of self-reflective consciousness likely has simpler, more foundational precursors in our animal ancestors. The capacity for pain, for fear, for basic awareness, is likely something we share with a vast range of other creatures, a legacy of our shared evolutionary history. The mindfuck of the philosophical debate on animal consciousness is that it forces us to confront the deep limitations of our own human-centric perspective. It reveals that our world is potentially filled with a vast spectrum of different kinds of subjective experience, different ways of being, that are alien and inaccessible to us. It questions our right to place ourselves at the top of a linear hierarchy of value, suggesting instead a vast, branching tree of different kinds of minds. The mystery is not just if animals are conscious, but how they are conscious, and what the universe looks and feels like from their unique point of view. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your sense of a singular, human-centered reality to soften and expand. Contemplate the profound mystery of the animal mind. What is it like to be the dolphin, navigating a world of sound? What is it like to be the eagle, seeing the world with an acuity you can only imagine? What is it like to be the ancient elephant, holding a lifetime of memories in its vast mind? Let go of the need for absolute proof. Find deep relaxation in the humble, empathetic act of simply wondering, of opening your mind to the possibility of a world filled with countless, unique, and mysterious forms of subjective experience. Resting peacefully, feeling yourself not as a solitary mind, but as one conscious note in a vast and beautiful planetary symphony. The mirror test: self-awareness in animals. Having grappled with the profound philosophical challenge of knowing the animal mind, let us now turn to the ingenious scientific attempts to find empirical evidence for one of the most sophisticated aspects of consciousness: self-awareness. This is not just the basic awareness of the world, but the awareness of oneself as an individual, an entity separate from the environment and from other beings. How can we possibly test for such an internal, subjective state in a creature that cannot speak our language? In the 1970s, psychologist Gordon Gallup Jr. devised a simple, elegant, and now famous experimental paradigm to probe this very question. This is the mirror test, or the mirror self-recognition test. It is a behavioral measure designed to determine whether an animal can recognize its own reflection as an image of itself, rather than as another animal. While it has its controversies and limitations, the mirror test has served as a crucial, if imperfect, benchmark in the study of animal cognition, a psychology mystery that offers a tantalizing glimpse into which of our fellow creatures might share the capacity for a recognizable I. Contemplating the moment of self-recognition is a profound way to fall asleep, gently blurring the lines we draw between ourselves and the rest of the animal kingdom. The procedure for the mirror test is straightforward. An animal is first allowed to familiarize itself with a large mirror placed in its enclosure. Initially, many social animals will react to their reflection as if it were another member of their species. They might show aggression, courtship displays, or social greetings. The first crucial stage is to see if this social behavior diminishes over time, as the animal learns that the reflection is not another creature. The animal might then begin to use the mirror as a tool, for example, to look at parts of its own body it cannot normally see, or to observe things happening behind it. This instrumental use of the mirror already suggests a sophisticated level of cognitive understanding. But the definitive test comes in the next stage. While the animal is anesthetized or otherwise distracted, the experimenter places a conspicuous, odorless mark on a part of the animal's body that it cannot see without the aid of a mirror, such as its forehead or an ear. The animal is then allowed to recover and is once again exposed to the mirror. The critical question is, what does the animal do? If the animal looks at its reflection and then immediately touches or investigates the mark on its own body, it is considered to have passed the test. This mark-directed behavior is taken as strong evidence that the animal understands the reflection is not another animal, but is, in fact, an image of itself. It is a sign of self-awareness, a moment where the animal demonstrates a connection between its visual perception of the image in the mirror and its kinesthetic sense of its own body. The first non-human animals to conclusively pass the mirror test were chimpanzees. Since then, a select and fascinating club of species has joined them. All of the great apes, chimpanzees, bonobos, gorillas, and orangutans have demonstrated self-recognition. This is perhaps not surprising, given their close evolutionary relationship to humans. But the list contains some real surprises that challenge our primate-centric views of high-level cognition. Bottlenose dolphins and killer whales, orcas, have also passed the test, often investigating marks on their bodies by positioning themselves in front of the mirror. This is particularly remarkable, as their brains and evolutionary history are so different from ours. Perhaps even more astonishingly, Asian elephants have passed the test, with one famous elephant repeatedly touching a white X painted on her forehead with the tip of her trunk while looking in the mirror. The mind fuck deepens when we leave the mammals. Some birds, a group long considered less intelligent, have also passed. The Eurasian magpie, a member of the highly intelligent Corvid family, became the first non-mammal to pass the test. And recently, even a fish, the cleaner wrasse, has been shown to exhibit mark-directed behavior that has been argued by some researchers to constitute a pass, a finding that is still highly debated but which profoundly questions our assumptions about the cognitive capacities of non-mammalian brains. The results of the mirror test are a profound psychology mystery because they provide a scattered, tantalizing map of self-awareness across the animal kingdom. The list of animals that pass is diverse and evolutionarily widespread, suggesting that the capacity for self-recognition may have evolved independently multiple times in different lineages in response to complex social or ecological pressures. It is not a simple ladder with humans at the top. However, it is equally important to understand the limitations and controversies surrounding the test. What does it mean if an animal fails the test? Does it prove they are not self-aware? Not necessarily. The test is heavily biased towards animals for whom vision is a primary sense. A dog, for instance, has never conclusively passed the mirror test. Dogs typically continue to treat their reflection as another dog or eventually ignore it. But a dog's primary sensory world is one of smell. Their sense of self and their recognition of other individuals is likely grounded in olfaction, not sight. A visual test of self-awareness may simply be an inappropriate tool for assessing the mind of an olfactory creature. Some researchers have humorously proposed a scent mirror test for dogs. The failure to pass the visual test does not mean a dog lacks a sense of self. It may just mean it lacks a visual sense of self. The test also measures a very specific kind of self-awareness, the recognition of one's physical body. There may be many other forms of consciousness and selfhood that are not captured by this particular experimental paradigm. Some critics argue that the test is an all-or-nothing measure that misses the likely graded, continuous nature of self-awareness across the animal kingdom. There may be many intermediate states between a complete lack of self-awareness and the explicit self-recognition demonstrated by passing the test. Furthermore, the interpretation of the test itself can be complex. Is the animal truly demonstrating a conceptual I? Or has it simply learned a sophisticated contingency? When I see a mark on that image in the shiny surface and I move my body in a certain way, the feeling of the mark corresponds to the visual. This is a more behaviorist interpretation that tries to explain the result without positing a rich, internal sense of self. Most researchers, however, find the self-awareness interpretation to be the most parsimonious and powerful explanation for the observed behaviors. Despite these limitations, the mirror test remains a powerful tool and a profound thought experiment. It forces us to confront the possibility that the feeling of being an I, a distinct individual, is not a uniquely human experience. It suggests that a sense of self has emerged in other branches of the evolutionary tree, in minds that are vastly different from our own. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your own self-awareness into focus. Feel the sense of yourself as an individual, located in a specific body, in a specific place. Now, imagine a chimpanzee, a dolphin, an elephant, a magpie looking into a mirror. and for the first time having the flicker of recognition, that is me. Contemplate the profound connection, the shared spark of self-awareness that might exist between you and these other minds. Let the mystery of the mirror test dissolve the artificial barrier we so often place between humans and other animals. Find deep relaxation in this expanded sense of the community of selves, a world not just of one kind of I, but of many, each one a unique center of subjective experience. Resting peacefully, feeling your own self-awareness as a single precious instance of a much wider and still largely unknown natural phenomenon. Theory of mind in primates and other species. Having contemplated the evidence for self-awareness in the animal mind, let us now explore an even more complex and socially crucial cognitive ability. This is the theory of mind. Theory of mind is the capacity to understand that others have their own minds, their own distinct mental states, their own beliefs, desires, intentions, and perspectives that are different from one's own. It is the ability to mentalize, to put yourself in another's shoes and see the world from their point of view. For a long time, this sophisticated social intelligence was considered a hallmark of being human, the very foundation of our complex social lives, our empathy, our deception, and our culture. But is this capacity truly unique to us? The search for theory of mind in primates and other species is a thrilling and active frontier in animal cognition research. The evidence suggests that we are not alone in this ability, and this finding is a profound mind-fuck that questions the very nature of the cognitive gap between humans and other animals. This is a deep psychology mystery, revealing that the social world of many animals may be far richer and more psychologically complex than we ever imagined, inviting deep relaxation through the contemplation of these other, non-human perspectives as you fall asleep. To appreciate the significance of theory of mind, consider a world without it. If you lacked a theory of mind, you would be unable to understand that other people's beliefs could be different from your own or even false. You wouldn't be able to grasp deception because you couldn't represent the fact that someone else might be trying to create a false belief in your mind. You would struggle to understand social cues, misunderstand intentions, and fail to engage in truly cooperative or competitive social strategies. In humans, the development of a robust theory of mind, typically emerging around the age of 4, is a crucial developmental milestone. It is tested with classic experiments like the Salian test, where a child must understand that another person, Sally, who was absent when an object was moved, will hold a false belief about the object's location. For decades, the scientific consensus was that no non-human animal possessed this ability. Animals, it was thought, were brilliant behaviorists. They could learn to predict the behavior of others based on past experience, but they couldn't represent the underlying mental states, the beliefs and desires, that drive that behavior. However, a growing body of clever and patient research, particularly with our closest relatives, the primates, has begun to challenge this assumption. Studies with chimpanzees, for example, have shown compelling evidence for certain aspects of theory of mind. Chimpanzees can follow the gaze of others and seem to understand what another individual can and cannot see. In competitive situations, a subordinate chimpanzee is more likely to go for a piece of hidden food if they know that the dominant chimpanzee cannot see it. This suggests they are not just reacting to the dominant's behavior, but are modeling the dominant's perceptual perspective. They seem to understand something about the other's state of knowledge. Some studies have even suggested that chimpanzees can understand the intentions of others, distinguishing between an experimenter who is unwilling to give them a treat and one who is unable to, perhaps because they are clumsy. Beyond primates, the evidence becomes even more surprising. The Corvid family of birds, including crows, ravens, jays, and magpies, has demonstrated remarkable cognitive abilities that point towards a sophisticated social intelligence. Scrub jays, for example, are known to cache or hide food for later. Studies have shown that a scrub jay who knows it has been observed hiding its food by another jay will often wait until the observer is gone and then secretly move its cache to a new location. This behavior strongly suggests that the jay understands that the other bird knows where the food is, and is acting to manipulate that knowledge, to create a false belief in the other bird's mind. This is a classic example of tactical deception, and it is very difficult to explain without attributing some form of theory of mind to the bird. The fact that this ability exists in a bird, whose brain is so structurally different from a primate's, is a stunning example of convergent evolution, where two distant species independently evolve a similar solution to a common adaptive problem: navigating a complex social world. The mindfuck here is the profound decentering of our own cognitive abilities. We have long defined our species, Homo sapiens, the wise man, by our unique mental capacities. The discovery that the foundations of theory of mind, the ability to see the world from another's perspective, to understand another's knowledge, to engage in deception, are present in other species forces us to reconsider our place in the cognitive landscape. It suggests that the gap between human and animal minds may be one of degree, not of kind. Our sophisticated human theory of mind, with its ability to represent nested beliefs, I think that you think that she thinks, may be a more elaborate version of a capacity that is much more widespread in nature than we previously believed. The psychology mystery lies in trying to understand the subjective experience and the precise limits of an animal's theory of mind. Does a chimpanzee have a rich internal model of what it's like to be another chimp? Does a scrub jay reflect on the beliefs of its rivals? We can only infer their inner states through their behavior, so their subjective world remains a mystery. Furthermore, the evidence is still debated. For almost every experiment claiming to show theory of mind in an animal, there are alternative, more lean interpretations that try to explain the behavior in simpler, non-mentalistic terms, e.g., as a result of complex associative learning. The scientific process is a constant push and pull between these richer and leaner interpretations, a testament to the immense difficulty of proving the existence of an unobservable mental state in a nonverbal creature. This exploration has profound ethical implications which we will explore later. If other animals possess a theory of mind, if they are not just conscious, but are conscious of the consciousness of others, then our moral obligations towards them become much more complex. It means they are not just experiencing their own lives, but are participating in a rich, psychological, social world, a world of friends, rivals, alliances, and deceptions. As you continue to fall asleep, let your mind hold the image of a chimpanzee, watching its rival, and making a decision based on what it knows the rival can or cannot see. Picture the scrub jay, secretly re-hiding its precious food, acting on its understanding of another bird's knowledge. Contemplate the profound possibility that the world is filled with beings who are not just experiencing their own reality, but are actively trying to understand the reality of others. Let this idea dissolve any remaining sense of human cognitive uniqueness. Find deep relaxation in this expanded, more populated social mental universe, a world teeming with not just other bodies but other perspectives, other points of view, resting peacefully, with a new and profound sense of respect for the deep, mysterious, and complex social intelligence of the animal mind, the intelligence of crows and corvids. Let us now emerge from the ocean depths and take to the skies, to explore the mind of a creature that has become a symbol of surprising and remarkable intelligence. The crow and its close relatives in the corvid family, such as ravens, jays, and magpies. For centuries, we have used the derogatory term bird brain to denote foolishness or a lack of intelligence. Yet, modern science has revealed that the mind of a corvid is an extraordinary thing, a testament to the power of convergent evolution. These birds, with brains that are structurally vastly different from our own primate brains, have independently evolved a suite of sophisticated cognitive abilities that are, in many ways, comparable to those of the great apes. The intelligence of crows and corvids is a profound psychology mystery, a mindfuck that questions our primate-centric view of what a smart brain must look like. It reveals that nature has found more than one way to build a powerful mind, inviting deep relaxation through the contemplation of this feathered ape and its alien yet brilliant form of consciousness as you fall asleep. The evidence for the remarkable intelligence of corvids is vast and varied, coming from a combination of field observations and clever laboratory experiments. One of the most stunning areas is tool use in manufacturing. While some primates are known to use simple tools, the New Caledonian crow stands in a class of its own. In the wild, these crows will craft complex tools from twigs, leaves, and pandanus plants to extract insects from their hiding places. They don't just use found objects, they manufacture tools. They will snip off a twig, trim it to the right length, and then fashion a hook on the end. This is not just a single, stereotyped behavior, it shows flexibility and foresight. In laboratory settings, a crow named Betty famously solved a problem by spontaneously bending a straight piece of wire into a hook to retrieve a small bucket of food from a vertical tube, a feat of creative problem-solving she had never been seen to do before. This demonstrates not just tool use, but a genuine understanding of cause and effect and the physical properties of objects. Corvids also exhibit a remarkable capacity for planning for the future, an ability once thought to be uniquely human. In experiments conducted by Nikki Clayton and her colleagues, scrub jays who are known to cache or hide food have been shown to plan for their future needs. When they have learned that they will be in a particular room in the morning where there will be no food, they will preferentially cache more food in that room the night before. They are not just acting on their present hunger, they are anticipating a future state of hunger and taking specific actions to prepare for it. This requires a sophisticated form of mental time travel, the ability to project oneself into the future and act accordingly. Perhaps most impressively, as we touched upon earlier, Corvids have shown compelling evidence for a theory of mind. The scrub jay who has been observed by another bird while caching its food will later, when it is alone, secretly move its food to a new hiding spot. This strongly implies that the jay understands that the other bird knows the original location, and it is acting to manipulate that mental state, to create a false belief in the other bird's mind. This is a complex social strategy that requires the ability to understand the perspective and knowledge state of another individual. This level of social chess, of understanding what others see and know, is a hallmark of high-level intelligence. Corvids also possess episodic-like memory. They seem to remember not just what they cached and where they cached it, but also when they cached it. In experiments, if they have learned that a certain type of food, like a tasty waxworm, spoils after a certain amount of time, they will choose not to retrieve it if they know they cached it a long time ago, opting instead for a less tasty but non-perishable food like a peanut that they cached at the same time. This what, where, when memory is a key component of the autobiographical memory that is so central to our own human experience. The mindfuck of Corvid intelligence is neurological. The avian brain has a very different structure from the mammalian brain. The seat of higher cognition in mammals is the layered neocortex. Birds do not have a neocortex. For a long time, this was seen as evidence that they must be less intelligent. However, we now know that the avian brain has evolved a different but equally powerful solution. A structure called the pallium in the bird brain appears to be functionally analogous to the neocortex, with dense clusters of neurons that support complex cognitive functions. The fact that a brain with such a different architecture can produce behaviors like tool manufacturing, future planning, and theory of mind is a stunning example of convergent evolution. It means that intelligence is not a fluke of primate brain design. It is a solution to complex environmental problems that nature has discovered multiple times independently. This psychology mystery forces us to completely reevaluate our definitions of intelligence and the neural structures required for it. It suggests that there may be many different architectures for a conscious, intelligent mind. It questions the very idea of a single ladder of intelligence with humans at the top, suggesting instead a branching tree of different kinds of intelligence, each adapted to its own evolutionary niche. The crow's mind is not a lesser version of a human's. It is a different and in some ways equally brilliant version. As you continue to fall asleep, let your mind's eye follow a sleek black crow. Watch as it assesses a problem, selects a twig and carefully fashions it into a hook. See it hiding a morsel of food, carefully watching to see if it is being observed. Contemplate the rich, complex, and profoundly alien mind behind those intelligent eyes. A mind that can plan for the future, understand the perspective of others, and solve complex problems, all with a brain so different from your own. Let the mystery of the Corvid's intelligence dissolve your assumptions about what a smart mind must look like. Find deep relaxation in the humbling knowledge that our planet is home to multiple independent experiments in the evolution of high-level cognition. Resting peacefully, with a new and profound respect for the feathered apes and the diverse, mysterious nature of the animal mind. The mind of an octopus, alien intelligence on Earth. We have explored the minds of our closer relatives, the primates, and the surprisingly convergent intelligence of birds. Let us now descend into the ocean depths again, to a realm that feels even more alien, to contemplate a mind that is perhaps the closest thing we will ever encounter to a true extraterrestrial intelligence. We explore the profound and baffling mind of an octopus. This creature, a member of the cephalopod class, represents a completely separate and independent evolutionary experiment in the development of a large, complex brain and sophisticated behavior. The last common ancestor we shared with an octopus was likely a tiny, flatworm-like creature that lived over 600 million years ago, long before the evolution of complex brains as we know them. Since then, our two lineages have evolved intelligence in complete isolation. The octopus mind is a psychology mystery of the highest order, a mindfuck that questions our most fundamental assumptions about what a mind is, how it must be structured, and how it must relate to the body. Contemplating this beautiful, strange, and solitary intelligence can be a source of profound wonder and deep relaxation as you fall asleep. To appreciate the alien nature of the octopus mind, we must first appreciate its body. An octopus is a creature of almost pure potential, with a soft, boneless body that can squeeze through any opening larger than its beak. It has 8 powerful, flexible arms, each one covered with hundreds of suckers that can not only grip but can also taste and smell the world through chemoreceptors. And most astonishingly, its nervous system is profoundly decentralized. A human's nervous system is highly centralized, with the vast majority of our neurons located in our brain. An octopus, however, has a much more distributed intelligence. Of its roughly 500 million neurons, more than 2/3 are located not in its central brain, but in its 8 arms. Each arm, in a sense, has a mind of its own. This is a profoundly different way of organizing a mind. An octopus's central brain can send a high-level command to an arm, such as reach for that crab, but the arm itself seems to execute the complex sequence of movements required to achieve that goal with a significant degree of autonomy. The arms can operate independently, solving problems and reacting to stimuli even when their connection to the central brain is severed. This is a form of embodied cognition taken to an extreme. The octopus's mind is not a single unified "I" located in its head, but a distributed network, a committee of minds, 1 central brain and 8 intelligent arms, working in a complex and still poorly understood collaboration. This questions our very definition of a self. Is the octopus a single being or a federation? The mystery of its subjective experience, of what it feels like to be a distributed consciousness, is almost impossible for our centralized minds to comprehend. The intelligence demonstrated by octopuses is as remarkable as their neuroanatomy. They are masters of camouflage, able to change their skin color, pattern, and even texture in a fraction of a second to perfectly match their surroundings or to create startling displays for communication or defense. This is not a simple reflex. It is a complex, active process that suggests a sophisticated body image and a deep connection between their visual perception and their physical form. They are also renowned problem solvers and escape artists. In aquariums, octopuses are notorious for their ability to learn how to unscrew the lids of jars to get food, to navigate complex mazes, and to escape from their tanks, sometimes even traveling to other tanks to steal food before returning. This behavior demonstrates not just learning but curiosity, foresight, and a capacity for planning. They have been observed using tools such as carrying coconut shells with them to use as a portable shelter, an example of anticipating a future need. Octopuses also appear to have distinct personalities. Some are shy, others are bold, some are playful, others are aggressive. They seem to be able to recognize individual human keepers and will often treat them differently, sometimes squirting a jet of water at a person they dislike, or gently caressing the hand of a person they trust. This suggests a capacity for complex social recognition and perhaps even a form of rudimentary emotional response, a controversial but actively researched idea. The mindfuck of the octopus is its profound otherness. It is a solitary, short-lived creature that has somehow evolved a level of intelligence that rivals that of many social, long-lived vertebrates. It is an invertebrate, more closely related to a clam or a snail than to a human, yet it exhibits behaviors we associate with the higher minds of mammals and birds. This is a stunning example of convergent evolution, where the pressures of a complex environment, the need to hunt, to avoid predators, to navigate a complex 3D space, can lead to the evolution of a powerful problem-solving intelligence through a completely different anatomical and neurological pathway. It demonstrates that there is not one single road to a complex mind. The psychology mystery of the octopus mind is almost total. How does a distributed nervous system create a unified sense of purpose? What is the subjective experience, the qualia, of a creature whose arms can think and feel for themselves? How do they learn so quickly and flexibly with such a short lifespan and with little to no parental care? What is the nature of their consciousness, if it exists? Are they self-aware? While octopuses have not passed the classic mirror test, their sophisticated camouflage abilities and their ability to solve novel problems suggest a complex relationship with their own bodies and their environment that we do not fully understand. Contemplating the mind of an octopus is a powerful exercise in decentering our own human experience. It forces us to confront the possibility of minds that are profoundly alien to our own, minds that are not organized around a single, unified I, minds whose intelligence is distributed throughout their bodies. It is a humbling reminder that our own brand of consciousness, primate, social, centralized, is just one possible configuration in the vast landscape of cognitive possibility. As you continue to fall asleep, let your mind drift down into the silent, liquid world of the deep ocean. Imagine yourself as an octopus, a being of pure, fluid potential. Feel your awareness not as a single point behind your eyes, but as a distributed network flowing through your 8 intelligent, questing arms. Sense the world not just with your eyes, but with the taste of your suckers on the seafloor. See the patterns of light and color not just as perceptions, but as something you can instantly embody on your own skin. Let the profound alienness of this consciousness gently expand your sense of what a mind can be. Find deep relaxation in this sense of wonder, in the mystery of an intelligence so different from our own, yet so undeniably present, resting peacefully, floating calmly in the vast, silent, and deeply intelligent world of the ocean. The emotional lives of elephants, grief and memory. From the alien intelligence of the invertebrate world, let us now return to the realm of mammals, to a creature whose deep emotional and social complexity is so profound that it both inspires our awe and challenges our sense of human uniqueness. We will now contemplate the emotional lives of elephants. These magnificent, long-lived, and highly social animals have long been observed to exhibit behaviors that appear strikingly similar to our own most profound emotions: joy, play, cooperation, and most poignantly, grief. Do elephants truly mourn their dead? Do they possess the kind of long-term, episodic memory and deep social bonds that would make such complex emotions possible? The scientific and anecdotal evidence strongly suggests they do, presenting a powerful psychology mystery that questions the traditional barriers we have erected between human emotion and animal instinct. Exploring the inner world of the elephant is a mind fuck for our sense of emotional superiority, revealing a deep, ancient, and powerful form of consciousness that commands our respect and empathy. Let the gentle, profound gravity of the elephant's heart guide you into a state of deep, compassionate relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin with the foundation of an elephant's emotional life: its immense capacity for memory. The old saying, "an elephant never forgets," is not just a cliché, it is grounded in scientific observation. Elephants possess the largest absolute brain of any land animal, with a highly convoluted neocortex and a hippocampus that is exceptionally large and dense relative to their brain size. The hippocampus, as we know, is a brain structure critical for the formation of long-term and spatial memories. This powerful neural hardware provides the basis for their incredible cognitive abilities. Matriarchs of elephant herds can remember the precise locations of distant waterholes and feeding grounds, leading their families across vast distances for decades. They can remember and recognize hundreds of individual elephants, as well as individual humans, maintaining complex social relationships over the course of their long lives, which can be 60 to 70 years. This is not just simple associative memory. The evidence suggests that elephants may possess a form of episodic-like memory, the ability to recall specific, personal past events. They seem to remember what happened, where it happened, and who was there. This capacity for detailed, long-term autobiographical memory is the necessary prerequisite for the complex emotional life they appear to lead. An emotion like grief, for example, is not just a momentary sadness. It is a complex response rooted in the memory of a specific, cherished individual and the profound sense of their loss. This brings us to the most compelling and moving evidence for the elephant's emotional depth: their behavior in the face of death. Field researchers and observers have documented countless, often heart-wrenching accounts of elephant responses to the death of a family or herd member. When an elephant is dying, other members of the herd will often attend to it, showing signs of distress, trying to lift it to its feet with their trunks and tusks. After a death, elephants have been observed to enter a period of apparent mourning. They may stand silently over the body for long periods, gently touching it with their trunks, sometimes for days. They may try to cover the body with dirt and branches, a kind of burial ritual. Even more remarkably, elephants show a profound and unusual interest in the bones and tusks of other elephants, even long after the death. If a herd comes across the skeletal remains of an elephant, they will often stop. They will fall silent. The elephants will gently and deliberately touch the bones, particularly the skull and tusks, with their trunks, passing them around from one to another. They do this even when the bones are from a stranger, an elephant they did not know. This behavior is highly specific. They do not show the same interest in the remains of other animals. It is as if they possess a generalized concept of elephant death. This solemn, ritualistic behavior is incredibly difficult to explain in purely instinctual or utilitarian terms. It strongly suggests a deep, contemplative response to the reality of mortality, a behavior that looks, for all the world, like a form of respect for the dead. The mindfuck of this is its direct challenge to the idea that complex emotions related to love, loss, and death are uniquely human. The deep, lasting social bonds within elephant families, which are often multi-generational and held together by the wisdom of the matriarch, are the foundation for this emotional complexity. The apparent grief of an elephant mother who has lost her calf, or the collective mourning of a herd, seems to be a genuine expression of profound emotional suffering rooted in a deep capacity for attachment. This questions the Cartesian view of animals as unfeeling machines in the most powerful way imaginable. It suggests that the capacity for deep love and, consequently, deep grief is not a human invention, but an evolutionary heritage we may share with other long-lived, highly social and intelligent species. The psychology mystery lies, as always, in the nature of their subjective experience. We can observe the behavior, we can see the neurological similarities in their brain structures, such as spindle cells, which are associated with empathy and self-awareness in humans and are also found in great apes, cetaceans, and elephants. But we can never know what it feels like to be a grieving elephant. What is the content of their consciousness as they stand silently over the bones of their kin? Are they remembering the individual? Are they contemplating their own mortality? We can only infer from their solemn and powerful behavior. This has profound ethical implications. If elephants are capable of such deep emotional suffering, if they have a concept of death and a capacity for grief, then our moral obligations towards them become immense. The cruelty of poaching, which not only kills an individual but also inflicts deep and lasting trauma on the entire family unit, becomes an atrocity of a different order. The suffering caused by culling or the destruction of their social structures in zoos and circuses becomes a profound ethical problem. To understand the mind of an elephant is to be forced to reconsider our entire relationship with the non-human world. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your mind to hold the majestic and gentle image of the elephant. Picture a matriarch, leading her family, her mind a vast library of memories of seasons, of places, of relationships. Imagine the deep, silent bond between a mother and her calf, and the profound, quiet sorrow she might feel at a loss. Contemplate the solemn ritual of a herd gathered around the bones of an ancestor, a silent communion with the mystery of death. Let the deep emotional world of the elephant expand your own capacity for empathy. Find deep relaxation in this sense of shared sentience, this connection to the profound emotional lives of other beings. Resting peacefully with a new and deep respect for the great, gentle, and deeply feeling minds that share our planet. The social world of wolves. Let us now travel from the ancient, matriarchal world of the elephant to the wild, windswept landscapes of the northern forests and tundra, to explore the mind of a creature that is an archetype of both fierce independence and profound social integration. We will delve into the intricate social world of wolves. For centuries, the wolf has been a figure of fear and misunderstanding in human culture, often portrayed as a symbol of savage, bloodthirsty evil. But modern, patient, long-term observation has revealed a far different and more complex reality. The wolf pack is not a chaotic mob of killers, but a highly sophisticated and cooperative social unit, in most cases a family. The mind of the wolf is a mind forged for cooperation, communication, and complex social strategy. The psychology mystery of the wolf lies in the intricate balance between the individual's powerful predatory instincts and the deep emotional bonds and complex social rules that allow the pack to function as a single, superorganism. Contemplating this dynamic world of loyalty and instinct offers a profound insight into the nature of social intelligence, inviting deep relaxation as you fall asleep. To understand the wolf, we must first dispel the myth of the alpha wolf. The popular idea of a pack being led by a tyrannical alpha, who constantly fights to maintain dominance over a group of unrelated rivals, is largely an artifact of studying captive, unrelated wolves in artificial enclosures. In the wild, a natural wolf pack is typically a family. It usually consists of a breeding pair, the alpha male and female, who are better understood as the parents, and their offspring of various ages. The alphas are not brutal dictators. They are the experienced leaders and primary decision-makers, guiding the family's movements, initiating hunts, and maintaining the pack's territory. The other members of the pack are not rivals, but their children and sometimes other close relatives, who follow their parents' lead out of a natural bond of kinship and respect for their experience. The social structure is based on cooperation and familial affection, not constant, violent struggle for dominance. This cooperative family structure is the key to the wolf's success as a species. A single wolf is a formidable predator, but a coordinated pack can hunt large, dangerous prey, like moose, elk, and bison, that would be impossible for an individual to bring down. This requires an incredible level of social intelligence and communication. During a hunt, wolves exhibit sophisticated, coordinated strategies. They might use a relay system to chase down faster prey, with different members of the pack taking turns to run at full speed. They might split up, with some wolves flushing the prey out of a forest towards other pack members lying in ambush. This kind of coordinated action requires each wolf to understand its own role, to anticipate the actions of its pack mates, and to communicate its intentions in real time. How do they communicate? Wolves have a rich and complex communication system that is still not fully understood by human observers. It is a multimodal language of the body and the senses. Body language is crucial. The posture of the tail, the position of the ears, the raising of a hackle, the baring of teeth, a direct stare, a submissive crouch, all of these are part of a nuanced grammar of social signals that convey an individual's mood, status, and intention. This constant stream of nonverbal communication is what allows the pack to maintain its delicate social balance and to coordinate its actions with such precision. Scent marking is another vital channel of communication. Wolves use urine and scat to leave detailed messages for themselves and for other packs, marking the boundaries of their territory and conveying information about their identity and status. Their world is a rich olfactory landscape of social information that is completely invisible to our own vision-dominant perception. And, of course, there is the most iconic of wolf communications: howling. A wolf's howl is not just a random cry in the night. It is a complex, long-distance social signal that serves multiple purposes. It is a rallying cry, a way for the pack to locate each other and come together across vast distances. It is a territorial claim, a powerful broadcast that warns other packs to stay away. And it is a profound expression of social bonding. Studies of the harmonics and structures of wolf howls suggest that they are highly individualized and contain a great deal of information. The chorus howl of a pack, with each member contributing a different harmonizing note, is one of the most beautiful and evocative expressions of collective identity in the natural world. It is the pack singing the song of its own existence. The mindfuck of the social world of wolves is its powerful demonstration of a form of collective intelligence and social cohesion that rivals, and in some ways surpasses, that of many primate groups. It questions our primate-centric bias, the idea that the most complex social minds must be found in our closest relatives. The wolf mind is a different kind of social intelligence, one that is less about manipulative, political cunning, as is often seen in primate societies, and more about profound, cooperative, and familial loyalty. The deep emotional bonds within a wolf pack, the care for the young by all members, the mourning of a lost pack mate, the intricate displays of affection and submission, all point to a rich inner world of emotion and social connection. The psychology mystery lies in the nature of their subjective experience. What does it feel like to have your individual identity so deeply intertwined with the identity of the pack? What is the subjective experience of the world for a creature whose primary reality is defined by scent and sound, not sight? What is the content of the thought of a wolf as it coordinates a complex hunt with its family? We can observe their behavior and infer their intelligence, but their unique form of consciousness, their wolf qualia, remains a profound enigma. This deeper understanding of the wolf's true nature, as a highly intelligent and deeply social family animal, has profound ethical implications. It completely reframes our historical perception of the wolf as a symbol of evil or a pest to be exterminated. It reveals them as a keystone species, a vital part of a healthy ecosystem, with a complex and valuable social existence of their own. It forces us to confront the immense harm that has been done to these creatures based on a profound and ignorant misreading of their nature. As you continue to fall asleep, let your mind wander into the great wild forests of the north. Picture the wolf pack, moving as a single silent unit through the snow. Feel the profound sense of connection, of loyalty, of shared purpose that binds them together as a family. Hear the long, lonely yet beautiful howl of the pack, a song of their identity and their bond, echoing under the moon. Let the mystery of the wolf's mind dissolve your old stereotypes. and replace them with a deep respect for this powerful, intelligent, and profoundly social being. Find deep relaxation in contemplating this different model of social existence, one based on fierce loyalty and deep cooperation. Resting peacefully with a new and more profound appreciation for the wild, ancient, and deeply intelligent spirit of the wolf. Animal morality, evidence for fairness and empathy. We have journeyed through the complex social worlds of elephants and wolves, witnessing behaviors that strongly suggest deep emotional bonds and cooperative intelligence. Let us now take a bold and controversial step further, to ask one of the most profound questions about the animal mind. Do non-human animals possess a sense of morality? Can they distinguish between right and wrong? Do they have an innate sense of fairness, and can they act from genuine empathy? For centuries, the capacity for morality was considered a uniquely human trait, the divine spark or the pinnacle of reason that separated us from the brute beasts. But a growing body of scientific evidence, from both the laboratory and the field, is beginning to challenge this assumption, suggesting that the building blocks of morality, empathy, fairness, cooperation, and altruism, have deep evolutionary roots and are present in a wide range of other species. The search for animal morality is a deep psychology mystery, a mindfuck that questions the very foundations of our ethical uniqueness and suggests that the origins of virtue may be far older and more widespread than we ever imagined. Let's begin with the concept of fairness. Do animals have a sense of a fair deal? Franz de Waal, a renowned primatologist, conducted a now famous experiment with Capuchin monkeys that provides a stunning demonstration of what he calls inequity aversion. In the experiment, two monkeys in adjacent cages are trained to perform a simple task, handing a rock to the experimenter. In return, they receive a reward. Initially, both monkeys receive a piece of cucumber as a reward, and they perform the task happily. But then, the experimenter changes the rules. One monkey continues to receive cucumber, but the other monkey, for performing the exact same task, starts receiving a much more desirable reward, a juicy grape. The reaction of the monkey receiving the cucumber is immediate and dramatic. It sees its partner getting a better reward for the same work, and it becomes visibly agitated. It might throw the cucumber back at the experimenter, rattle its cage, or simply refuse to participate in the game any longer. This is not just about greed. The monkey was perfectly happy with the cucumber until it saw the unfairness of the situation. This powerful reaction against unequal pay for equal work is a clear, if rudimentary, sense of fairness. Similar responses have been observed in other primates, dogs, and even some birds. It suggests that the emotional and cognitive roots of our own powerful sense of justice and our outrage at unfairness are not a human invention, but have a deep evolutionary history. Now, let's consider the even more complex emotion of empathy. As we've discussed, empathy involves both understanding and sharing the feelings of another. The evidence for empathy in animals is rich and compelling. We have already contemplated the profound grief exhibited by elephants. Let's look at other examples. In numerous studies, rodents like rats and mice have been shown to engage in emotional contagion. If one rat is in distress, a nearby rat will also show signs of stress. More remarkably, rats have been shown to engage in helping behavior driven by empathy. In one experiment, a rat is placed in an enclosure with a trapped cage mate. The free rat will work diligently to figure out how to open the trap to release its companion, even when there is no direct reward for doing so. In fact, they will often choose to free their cage mate before accessing a separate container of chocolate treats, and will even share the treats after the cage mate is freed. This strongly suggests that they are motivated by a genuine desire to alleviate the other rat's distress. Our closest relatives, the great apes, show even more sophisticated forms of empathy and altruism. Chimpanzees have been observed consoling the victims of a fight, offering a hug or a gentle pat, a behavior that seems to serve no purpose other than to comfort the distressed individual. They will share food with others, especially with those who have helped them in the past, reciprocal altruism. Bonobos, in particular, are known for their incredibly high levels of empathy and their ability to resolve conflicts through peaceful, social means. These behaviors suggest that the foundations of our own moral systems, the ability to feel with others and to act on that feeling, are deeply rooted in our primate heritage. The mindfuck of animal morality is its profound challenge to the idea that morality is a product of high-level human reason or divine revelation. It suggests that morality is not something that was invented by philosophers or prophets, but something that has evolved. Our moral sense is not a thin veneer of civilization over a brutish, animal nature. Instead, our animal nature itself contains the very seeds of virtue: empathy, cooperation, fairness, and altruism. The mystery is not why humans can be good, but how these ancient, evolved moral sentiments became codified into the complex ethical systems, laws, and religious teachings that we see in human societies. The evidence suggests that our reason did not create morality from scratch. It built upon a rich, pre-existing foundation of evolved social emotions. This questions the traditional dichotomy between instinct and reason. The moral behavior of animals is not just a rigid, instinctual program. It is often flexible, context-dependent, and responsive to the specific social situation. It involves judgment, memory, and emotional assessment. While it may not involve abstract, philosophical deliberation, it is a form of moral intelligence that is deeply sophisticated and adaptive. Of course, the study of animal morality is not without its controversies. For every observation that suggests empathy or fairness, a skeptic can often propose a leaner interpretation, explaining the behavior in terms of more simple, self-interested mechanisms without needing to posit a rich inner, moral life for the animal. Is the rat freeing its cage made out of empathy, or simply to stop the annoying distress calls? Is the chimpanzee consoling its friend or just trying to reduce its own stress? It is incredibly difficult to definitively prove the underlying motivation of a nonverbal creature. Nevertheless, the weight of the evidence is shifting. The picture that is emerging is one of profound evolutionary continuity. The building blocks of our own moral existence are visible all around us, in the social lives of our fellow creatures. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your mind to hold this gentle and expansive thought: the idea of a moral world that extends beyond our own species. Picture the Capuchin monkey rejecting a reward out of a sense of fairness. Picture the rat working to free its trapped friend from a sense of empathy. Picture the chimpanzee offering a gentle touch of consolation. Let these images dissolve any remaining sense of human moral arrogance. Find deep relaxation in the profound connection this idea fosters. A connection rooted in a shared, evolved capacity for goodness. See our own morality not as a unique creation, but as a human expression of a much older, wider, and more mysterious natural virtue. Resting peacefully, feeling yourself a part of a vast, ancient, and deeply moral community of life. The subjective experience of a bat, what is it like? We have explored the remarkable behaviors that suggest deep intelligence, self-awareness, and even morality in the animal mind. We have seen evidence that makes us question our own uniqueness. Let us now return to the most fundamental mystery of all, the very heart of the problem of animal consciousness. We will contemplate the profound philosophical question famously posed by the philosopher Thomas Nagel in his seminal essay, "What is it like to be a bat?" This question is not about the bat's behavior, its biology, or its neurology. It is a question about its subjective experience, its first-person, private, inner world, its qualia. Nagel argues that even if we possessed a complete and perfect scientific understanding of a bat's brain and its echolocation system, we would still never know the answer to this question. The subjective character of experience, he argues, is only accessible from that creature's own point of view. This thought experiment is a profound mindfuck that reveals the deep, perhaps unbridgeable, chasm between objective third-person knowledge and subjective first-person awareness. It questions the very limits of scientific explanation and our ability to ever truly understand a mind that is not our own, inviting deep relaxation through the humble acceptance of this profound mystery as you fall asleep. Let's begin by appreciating the alien nature of the bat's perceptual world. A bat navigates and perceives its environment primarily through echolocation. It emits high-frequency sounds and then builds a rich, detailed, three-dimensional model of the world based on the echoes that return to its ears. Sees with sound. This sensory modality is so profoundly different from our own vision-dominant experience that it is almost impossible for us to imagine. What is the qualitative feeling of perceiving a moth's texture, speed, and location through a pattern of echoes? Does it feel like a kind of seeing? Does it feel like a kind of hearing? Or is it a completely unique sensory experience, a bat qualia, for which we have no words and no concepts? This is the core of Nagel's argument. He chooses the bat precisely because its mode of experience is so alien to ours. He argues that the subjective experience of the bat is a real fact about the universe. There is something that it is like to be a bat. But this fact is only accessible from the bat's unique, first-person point of view. Science, by its very nature, strives for an objective third-person perspective. A neuroscientist studying a bat's brain can map the neural activity, trace the processing of the sonar signals, and understand the computational mechanisms that allow the bat to navigate. This is a complete, objective, third-person account of the function of the bat's perceptual system. But, Nagel argues, this objective account will always leave something out: the subjective experience itself. The neuroscientist will know everything about the bat's brain, but they will never know what it feels like to be the bat. This is because subjective experience is not a physical function. It is a point of view. To know what it's like to be a bat, one would have to be a bat. This reveals what philosophers call the explanatory gap between the physical and the mental. Our objective, physical descriptions of the brain, no matter how complete, do not seem to be able to explain or even describe the subjective, phenomenal reality of consciousness. The mind-fuck of this thought experiment is its powerful challenge to physicalism or reductionism, the philosophical view that everything in the universe, including the mind, can be ultimately reduced to and explained by its physical properties. If there are real facts about the universe, the facts about what it is like to be a bat, that are, in principle, forever inaccessible to objective physical science, then physicalism cannot be the whole story. It suggests that consciousness, with its subjective, first-person nature, is a fundamentally different kind of phenomenon that may require a different kind of explanation, or may even lie beyond explanation altogether. This psychology mystery forces us to confront the limits of our own empathy and imagination. We can try to imagine what it's like to be a bat. We can imagine hanging upside down, having wings, and seeing with sound. But our imagination is always constrained by our own human concepts and experiences. We are imagining a human pretending to be a bat. We can never truly adopt the point of view of a genuinely non-human consciousness. The thought experiment highlights the profound solitude of subjective experience. Your inner world is ultimately accessible only to you, and the inner world of every other conscious creature is accessible only to them. We are, in a sense, islands of private experience. This has profound implications for our entire scientific study of the animal mind. It suggests that while we can and should continue to study animal behavior, cognition, and neurology to make rational inferences about their inner lives, we must do so with a deep sense of humility. We must always remember that our third-person scientific models will never capture the first-person, subjective reality of the animal itself. The what-it-is-likeness of animal experience will always remain a mystery. This does not mean we should give up or that the study is pointless. It simply means we must be clear about what we can and cannot know. We can gather strong, compelling, and ethically crucial evidence that animals are conscious, that they feel pain, that they have complex cognitive lives. But we must accept that the specific flavor of their consciousness, the qualitative texture of their inner world, is something we can only wonder at. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your mind to gently hold this profound and humbling thought experiment. First, feel the familiar reality of your own subjective experience. The feeling of the breath in your lungs, the specific quality of the sounds you are hearing, the texture of your thoughts. This is what it is like to be you. Now try to imagine the world of the bat, a world painted not with light, but with echoes, a world of sonic shapes and textures. Acknowledge the profound difficulty, the impossibility, of truly grasping this alien reality. Let go of the need to understand every form of consciousness through the lens of your own. Find deep relaxation in the acceptance of this profound mystery, in the humble acknowledgement that the universe is filled with countless, private and unknowable subjective worlds. Appreciate your own conscious experience as a precious, unique, and ultimately intimate phenomenon, resting peacefully, a single known point of view in a vast, mysterious cosmos of other minds. The nature of animal pain and suffering. Having contemplated the deep philosophical mystery of an animal's subjective experience, let us now focus on the most ethically crucial aspect of that inner world, the nature of animal pain and suffering. For centuries, the question of whether animals truly feel pain in the way humans do was a subject of debate, with thinkers like Descartes arguing they were mere machines, their cries nothing more than mechanical responses. Today, the scientific consensus is overwhelmingly clear. A vast range of animals, particularly vertebrates, possess the necessary neurological and biological hardware to experience pain. However, the deeper psychology mystery lies in understanding the nature of their suffering. Is their experience of pain a simple, raw, aversive sensation? Or can they also experience the more complex, psychological layers of suffering that we associate with pain, The fear, the anxiety, the memory of past pain, the dread of future pain? This is a profound question that lies at the very heart of our ethical obligations to other creatures. It is a mindfuck that questions the moral distance we often place between ourselves and the rest of the animal kingdom, inviting deep relaxation through a more compassionate and scientifically informed understanding of the shared reality of suffering as you fall asleep. Let's begin with the biological evidence for animal pain. The physiological mechanisms for detecting and responding to noxious or harmful stimuli are remarkably conserved across the evolutionary tree. The basic hardware is called the nociceptive system. Nociceptors are specialized sensory neurons that respond to potentially damaging stimuli, extreme heat, pressure, or harmful chemicals. When these neurons are activated, they send signals up the spinal cord to the brain. In humans, we know that these signals are then processed in various brain regions, including the thalamus, the somatosensory cortex, which registers the location and intensity of the stimulus, and crucially the limbic system, including the amygdala and the anterior cingulate cortex, which generates the negative emotional experience, the unpleasantness, the hurt of pain. The crucial finding is that all mammals, birds, and likely many other vertebrates share these same fundamental brain structures and pathways. They have nociceptors, they have spinal cord pathways to the brain, and they have the limbic system structures associated with the emotional component of pain. When an animal sustains an injury, we can observe not just a simple withdrawal reflex, but a complex suite of behaviors that mirrors our own experience of pain. They will cry out, they will limp, they will lick or guard the injured area. Their heart rate and stress hormone levels will increase. They will learn to avoid situations where they have been hurt in the past. And, crucially, they will seek out and self-administer pain-relieving drugs when given the opportunity. All of this provides a powerful, coherent body of evidence that their experience is not just a simple reflex, but a complex, negative, and deeply unpleasant conscious experience, much like our own. The mystery deepens when we move beyond simple physical pain to the more complex concept of suffering. Suffering can be defined as a prolonged state of physical or mental distress, one that often involves a psychological dimension beyond the immediate sensation. It involves memory and anticipation. A human in chronic pain suffers not just from the present sensation, but from the memory of past pain and the fear and anxiety about future pain. Do animals experience this temporal, psychological dimension of suffering? The evidence is mounting that they do. We have already explored the profound capacity for memory in animals like elephants. An elephant who has witnessed the death of its family at the hands of poachers can show signs of what looks exactly like post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, 4 years afterwards, including heightened anxiety, aggression, and social withdrawal. This strongly suggests that their suffering is not just about a past physical event, but about a lasting, traumatic memory of that event. We see similar evidence in chimpanzees who have been used in laboratory research or rescued from abusive situations. The capacity for anticipation and anxiety is also evident. An animal that has been repeatedly subjected to a painful procedure in a laboratory will begin to show signs of fear and stress as soon as it recognizes the cues that predict the procedure is about to happen. It is not just reacting to the pain itself, it is suffering from the fear of the pain to come. This anticipatory anxiety is a key component of psychological suffering. The mindfuck of acknowledging the depth of animal suffering is that it makes our moral world infinitely more complex and demanding. If we accept that the creatures we use for food, for research, for entertainment, are not just capable of feeling physical pain, but are also capable of experiencing complex, long-term psychological suffering, fear, grief, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, then our ethical obligations towards them become immense. It questions the very foundation of the human-animal relationship as it has existed for most of history. It forces us to confront the immense scale of the suffering we inflict on our fellow conscious beings. The clean, sanitized packaging of meat in a supermarket, for example, hides a reality of industrial farming that, when viewed through the lens of animal suffering, can become morally difficult to bear. The philosophical debate here is crucial. Some thinkers still argue for a degree of human exceptionalism, perhaps based on our capacity for language, abstract reason, or moral self-reflection. They might argue that while animals can feel pain, they cannot suffer in the same way we do because they lack a sophisticated concept of self, a narrative identity, or an understanding of their own mortality. In this view, there is still a meaningful moral distinction to be made. Other thinkers, like the philosopher Peter Singer, champion a utilitarian perspective based on the principle of equal consideration of interests. They argue that the one fundamental interest that all sentient beings share is the interest in avoiding pain. Therefore, the capacity to suffer is the only relevant criterion for moral consideration. In this view, to ignore the suffering of an animal simply because it is not our species is a form of arbitrary discrimination, a speciesism that is as morally unjustifiable as racism or sexism. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your awareness to expand with a sense of gentle, compassionate empathy. Contemplate the profound mystery of the inner lives of other creatures. Acknowledge the overwhelming scientific evidence that we share this planet with a vast community of beings who are capable of experiencing not just simple sensations, but deep and complex forms of pain and suffering. Let this understanding dissolve the artificial walls of separation between human and animal. See instead a continuum of sentience, a shared vulnerability to pain and a shared interest in well-being. Find deep relaxation not in avoiding this difficult truth, but in the compassionate acceptance of it. Let it foster a sense of profound respect and responsibility for the other minds who share our world, resting peacefully with a heart that is open to the silent, yet profound, suffering and joy of all living things. The concept of animal culture and traditions. We often think of culture as the exclusive domain of humanity. We see it in our art, our music, our languages, our technologies, and our complex social customs. We have traditionally defined ourselves as the cultural animal, the only species that transmits complex behaviors and knowledge across generations through social learning rather than through purely genetic inheritance. But what if this, too, is a form of human exceptionalism, a wall we have built to separate ourselves from the rest of the animal mind? The emerging evidence for animal culture and traditions is a profound psychology mystery that is radically reshaping our understanding of the natural world. It is the discovery that many animal species possess their own unique, socially transmitted behaviors, dialects, and skills that vary from one group to another. This mindfuck questions the very definition of culture and suggests that the roots of our own civilizations run far deeper and wider than we ever imagined. Contemplating this world of non-human traditions is a pathway to deep relaxation through a more humble and interconnected view of life on Earth as you fall asleep. To understand animal culture, we must first define what we mean by culture, in a biological sense. At its core, culture is a system of information transfer where behaviors are passed from one individual to another through social learning, such as imitation or teaching, rather than through genetic inheritance. For a behavior to be considered cultural, it must be demonstrated that it is present in one group of a species but absent in another, and that this difference cannot be explained by genetic or ecological factors alone. It must be a learned tradition. For decades, scientists were skeptical that such a phenomenon existed in the non-human world. But a wealth of patient, long-term field observation has provided a cascade of undeniable examples. Perhaps the most famous and well-documented examples of animal culture come from our closest relatives, the primates. Different troops of chimpanzees, for instance, have developed their own unique cultural traditions. Some groups have learned to use stones as hammers and anvils to crack open nuts, a complex skill that is passed down from mother to offspring through years of observation and practice. Other chimpanzee groups, living in similar environments with the same resources available, have never developed this technology. Some troops use sticks to fish for termites, while others use different types of tools for different tasks. They have, in essence, their own unique tool cultures. Beyond tools, they have different social customs, specific grooming hand clasps, unique courtship rituals, or particular ways of playing that are unique to their specific tribe. These are not genetically determined behaviors. They are local traditions, the chimpanzee equivalent of a cultural handshake or a regional custom. But the evidence for animal culture extends far beyond the primates. As we explored earlier, the world of cetaceans, whales, and dolphins is rich with cultural transmission. The complex, ever-evolving songs of humpback whales are a stunning example of a large-scale, culturally transmitted artistic tradition. Different pods of orcas, or killer whales, have incredibly specialized and culturally distinct hunting techniques that are passed down through generations. Some orca populations have learned to hunt seals by intentionally beaching themselves, a high-risk strategy that mothers painstakingly teach to their calves. Other populations have learned to cooperate to create massive waves to wash seals off floating ice floes. These are not innate, instinctual behaviors. They are sophisticated, culturally learned traditions, unique to specific orca clans. These clans also have their own unique vocal dialects, the whale equivalent of a regional accent or language, which helps to maintain their distinct social identity. The world of birds is also filled with cultural traditions. Many species of songbirds have regional dialects, where the local version of their species' song is passed down through vocal learning from one generation to the next. Meerkats in the Kalahari Desert have been shown to have socially learned traditions for which foods are safe to eat. One group might learn to eat a specific, slightly toxic scorpion, after learning the difficult technique of removing its stinger, while another group just a few miles away will not touch it. This is a dietary culture. The mindfuck of animal culture is its profound blurring of the lines between humans and other animals. It shows that we are not the only species to have a second inheritance system, the passing down of knowledge through learning in addition to the passing down of genes. It suggests that the very foundations of human civilization, technology, social norms, tradition, have deep evolutionary roots and are present, in simpler forms, in many other species. It questions the idea that culture is a singular, monolithic thing that we have and they don't. Instead, it points to a continuum of cultural complexity across the animal kingdom. The psychology mystery lies in understanding the cognitive and social mechanisms that make animal culture possible. What are the specific forms of social learning, imitation, emulation, active teaching that different species use? The evidence for active, intentional teaching in animals is still rare and debated, but it has been observed in some species, like meerkats, where mothers will bring their pups disabled but still living scorpions to practice on. The mystery also lies in understanding the why. What are the evolutionary pressures that favor the development of culture in some species but not others? It is often linked to living in complex, changing environments where the ability to learn and adapt quickly through social learning is more advantageous than relying on the slow process of genetic evolution. Contemplating animal culture has profound implications for conservation and ethics. If we understand that a population of whales or chimpanzees is not just a collection of interchangeable, genetically programmed animals, but a unique and ancient culture with its own traditions, knowledge, and social history, then the loss of that population is a far greater tragedy. It is not just the loss of a group of animals, it is the extinction of an entire culture, the burning of a non-human library. It raises the moral stakes of our impact on the planet immeasurably. As you continue to fall asleep, let your mind wander across the globe and back through time. Picture a young chimpanzee, carefully watching its mother as she uses a stone to crack a nut, learning a tradition passed down for generations. Imagine a pod of orcas, communicating in their own unique dialect, cooperatively hunting in a way that only their family knows. Hear the song of a humpback whale, a vast, complex, and evolving cultural anthem sung across an entire ocean. Let the existence of animal culture dissolve any remaining sense of human arrogance. Find deep relaxation in the profound sense of connection this knowledge brings, a connection not just to individual animals, but to their ancient, rich, and mysterious traditions. Resting peacefully, feeling yourself a part of a world that is not just biologically diverse, but culturally diverse, a world filled with countless, beautiful, non-human ways of being. Interspecies communication. Can we talk to animals? We have journeyed deep into the animal mind, exploring the evidence for their consciousness, their intelligence, their emotional lives, and their rich cultural traditions. This leads us to a question that has been a subject of human fantasy, myth, and now intensive scientific research for centuries. Can we talk to animals? Is it possible to bridge the species divide and engage in genuine two-way interspecies communication? The quest to understand and even speak the language of another species is one of the most profound and challenging psychology mysteries. It forces us to confront the limits of our own human-centric worldview, the nature of language itself, and the potential for a deeper, more meaningful connection with the non-human world. The very possibility of such a dialogue is a mindfuck that questions our solitude in the world of language, inviting deep relaxation through the contemplation of a universe filled with voices we are only just beginning to learn how to hear as you fall asleep. The history of attempts at interspecies communication is a story of both remarkable breakthroughs and significant controversies. For a long time, our attempts were largely one-sided. We trained animals to respond to our commands, a form of one-way communication where the animal learns to understand a small part of our language, but we learn little of theirs. The real revolution began with attempts to teach animals to use a symbolic language to communicate with us. The most famous of these efforts involved teaching American Sign Language (ASL) to great apes. Projects like those with Washoe the chimpanzee, Koko the gorilla, and Chantek the orangutan produced astonishing results. These apes were able to learn hundreds of signs and, more importantly, to combine them in novel and meaningful ways. They didn't just use signs to request food, they used them to comment on their environment, to express emotions, to ask questions, and even, it seemed, to lie or joke. Coco famously signed sad when her pet kitten was killed, and when asked about death, she signed comfortable whole bye-bye. Washoe, upon seeing a swan for the first time, spontaneously combined the signs for water and bird, creating a new metaphorical compound noun. These achievements seem to be a powerful demonstration that apes could grasp the symbolic nature of language. However, these ape language studies were also met with intense skepticism, most notably from linguist Noam Chomsky and his followers. Critics argued that the apes were not demonstrating true language with its complex syntax and grammar, but were rather engaging in a highly sophisticated form of operant conditioning, learning to produce certain signs to get rewards from their human trainers. They argued that the trainers were often guilty of overinterpreting the apes' ambiguous signs, projecting human-like meaning onto them, anthropomorphism. The debate over whether the apes were truly generating language or just cleverly mimicking it remains a contentious chapter in the history of psychology. Parallel to the ape language projects, researchers have explored communication with other highly intelligent species. The work of Irene Pepperberg with an African gray parrot named Alex was revolutionary. Parrots are known for their ability to mimic human speech, but Alex demonstrated something far deeper. He was not just mimicking, he seemed to understand the concepts behind the words. He could correctly identify dozens of objects, colors, shapes, and materials. He could answer questions about them, demonstrating an understanding of categories like same and different. He could count. Before he died, his last words to Dr. Pepperberg were, "You be good. I love you." Alex's cognitive and linguistic abilities profoundly challenged our understanding of the avian brain, showing that a mind so different from our own could master complex cognitive tasks once thought to be exclusive to primates. The research into dolphin and whale communication, as we have explored, represents another exciting frontier. Scientists are using advanced technology, including AI, to decode the complex whistles and clicks of dolphins and the songs of whales. While we are still far from a dolphin dictionary, the research is revealing incredible complexity, including the signature whistles that function as names. The goal of projects like SETI, Cetacean Translation Initiative, is to use machine learning to find the patterns, the grammar, in these vocalizations, in the hope of one day being able to understand and perhaps even engage in a rudimentary dialogue. The mindfuck of interspecies communication is the dawning realization that we are surrounded by a world of non-human languages that we are simply too ignorant to understand. The silence of the animal world is not a reflection of their lack of anything to say, but of our own profound lack of listening skills. This questions our self-conception as the sole linguistic beings on the planet. It suggests that language, like intelligence, might be a more widespread and diverse phenomenon than we ever believed. The mystery is not if animals communicate, but what they are saying, and whether we can ever develop the tools and the humility to truly listen. This endeavor forces us to confront our own anthropomorphism. How do we study and interpret animal communication without simply projecting our own human-centric ideas of language onto it? The language of a dolphin, a creature that lives in a three-dimensional aquatic world and perceives with sonar, is likely to be structured in a way that is fundamentally alien to our own. It might not be a language of objects and subjects, but a language of echoes, pictures, and feelings. To understand it, we may need to radically decenter our own linguistic worldview. The ethics of this research are also profound. If we do succeed in having a more detailed dialogue with another species, what will we learn? We might learn about their subjective experience, their emotional lives, their view of the world, and perhaps their view of us. This knowledge would bring with it an immense moral responsibility. To know that a species has a complex language and culture would make its continued exploitation or the destruction of its habitat an act of profound and undeniable cultural and linguistic vandalism. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your mind to be filled with the sounds of the animal world, the chattering of primates, the song of a whale, the complex calls of a flock of birds. Contemplate these not as random noises, but as languages, as expressions of other minds, other realities. Acknowledge the profound mystery and the immense challenge of trying to bridge the gap between species, to translate these alien tongues. Find deep relaxation in the humbling and awe-inspiring idea that our human conversation is just one of countless conversations happening on this planet. Let go of the feeling of being the only voice, and rest peacefully, listening to the vast, complex, and largely untranslated symphony of the global animal mind. The swarm intelligence of ants and bees. We have spent much of our journey exploring the remarkable intelligence found within individual animal minds: the primate, the corvid, the octopus. Let us now turn to a completely different and in many ways more alien form of intelligence, one that does not reside in a single centralized brain. We will delve into the profound mystery of swarm intelligence, as exemplified by the incredible societies of ants and bees. A single ant or bee is a relatively simple creature, operating on a limited set of genetic and chemical rules. Yet, when tens of thousands or millions of these simple individuals come together, they can form a superorganism, a collective entity that exhibits astonishingly complex, adaptive, and intelligent behavior. The colony can solve complex problems, build sophisticated structures, and allocate resources with a wisdom that seems to far exceed the capacity of any of its individual members. This is the mindfuck of swarm intelligence, the emergence of a collective mind from the interactions of many mindless parts. It questions our very definition of intelligence and self, suggesting that a mind does not need to be located inside a single skull. Contemplating this decentralized, emergent form of consciousness can be a profoundly relaxing and humbling experience as you fall asleep. Let's begin with the world of the ant colony. An individual ant operates on a surprisingly simple set of rules, largely driven by chemical signals called pheromones. It follows trails, it reacts to the chemical signatures of its nestmates, it performs its designated task as a worker, a soldier, or a nurse. It has no overview of the colony's situation, no grand plan, no leader issuing complex commands. Even the queen is primarily an egg-laying machine, not a ruler. Yet, from these simple local interactions, a breathtakingly complex collective intelligence emerges. Consider how an ant colony forages for food. When a forager ant finds a food source, it lays down a pheromone trail on its way back to the nest. Other ants are programmed with a simple rule: follow pheromone trails. As more ants follow the trail to the food in return, they reinforce it with their own pheromones. But the pheromones evaporate over time. This leads to a beautiful, self-organizing solution to finding the most efficient path. A shorter path to the food allows ants to make the round trip more quickly, meaning they lay down pheromones at a higher rate. The shorter path's trail therefore becomes stronger and more attractive than a longer path's trail, and very quickly, the entire colony converges on the most efficient route. The colony has solved a complex optimization problem without any single ant having any awareness of the overall map. The intelligence is not in the ants. It is in the dynamic interaction between the ants and their chemically modified environment. This process is known as stigmergy, a form of indirect communication and coordination through the environment. The construction of their nests is another marvel of swarm intelligence. Termites, close relatives of ants, can build colossal, intricate mounds with complex ventilation systems that maintain a stable internal temperature and humidity. Again, there is no architect, no blueprint. The structure emerges from each individual termite following a simple set of rules, such as, if you smell this pheromone, deposit your ball of mud here. The initial deposits create a new pattern of chemical cues that then guides the next phase of construction. It is a process of decentralized, emergent architecture, a physical structure built by a collective mind. Now let's turn to the world of the honeybee hive. A honeybee colony also functions as a superorganism, with a collective intelligence that allows it to make remarkably sophisticated decisions. One of the most critical decisions a hive must make is when to swarm and where to build a new nest. When a hive becomes overcrowded, the old queen and about half the workers will leave to form a new colony. This swarm will settle on a temporary location, like a tree branch, and then send out scout bees to search for a suitable new home, a cavity of the right size with a small entrance at the right height from the ground. When the scouts return, they report on the quality of the sites they have found using one of the most famous forms of animal communication, the waggle dance. A scout performs a dance on the surface of the swarm, a figure-8 pattern where the angle of the central run indicates the direction of the nest site relative to the sun, and the duration of the run indicates its distance. The enthusiasm of the dance communicates the site's quality. Other scouts will then fly out to inspect the advertised sites. If they agree that a site is good, they will return and perform the same dance, becoming recruiters for that location. This creates a kind of democratic debate. Good sites will attract more and more dancers, while mediocre sites will gradually lose support. Eventually, a quorum is reached. When a critical number of scouts are all dancing for the same location, the debate is over. The entire swarm then lifts off and flies, with incredible precision, to the chosen site. This collective decision-making process is a beautiful example of a decentralized system weighing multiple options, integrating diverse information, and arriving at a robust, optimal consensus, often better than a single, centralized leader could. The mindfuck of swarm intelligence is its radical challenge to our individualized notion of mind and self. It suggests that intelligence, and perhaps even a form of consciousness, can be a distributed, collective property. The mind of the ant colony or the beehive is not located in any single individual. It is in the network, the pattern of connections and interactions. This questions the very idea that a mind must be contained within a brain. It opens up the possibility of other forms of consciousness in the universe that might be organized on a collective, rather than individual, basis. The psychology mystery lies in the elegance and efficiency of these emergent systems. How did evolution, acting on individual organisms, produce these incredibly sophisticated systems of collective behavior? It highlights the power of self-organization as a fundamental principle of nature. It also forces us to see these creatures in a new light. An individual ant may seem insignificant, but as a component of the superorganism, it is part of a complex and ancient intelligence. As you continue to fall asleep, let your mind's eye zoom out. See the individual ant, a tiny being following a simple chemical trail. Now see the entire colony, a vast, intelligent superorganism, flowing like a river through the forest, building, farming, exploring. Picture the individual bee performing its intricate waggle dance. And then see the entire swarm, a single, collective mind debating and deciding its future. Let the concept of swarm intelligence dissolve your assumptions about where a mind must reside. Find deep relaxation in the idea of a decentralized, emergent consciousness, a wisdom that is not held by the parts, but created by the whole, resting peacefully, feeling yourself connected to the vast, intricate, and deeply intelligent web of life, where even the smallest creatures can come together to create a mind. The nature of animal play. In our deep journey into the animal mind, we have explored the serious business of survival, intelligence, problem-solving, social strategy, and morality. Let us now turn our attention to a behavior that, on the surface, seems to be the very opposite of serious. We will contemplate the profound mystery of animal play. Watch a pair of young wolves tumbling and wrestling, a dolphin leaping and spinning in the waves, a crow repeatedly sliding down a snowy roof on a piece of plastic. These actions seem to be performed for no immediate, practical purpose. They are not for finding food, building a nest, or escaping a predator. They seem to be done purely for their own sake, for the sheer joy of it. But is this true? What is the function of this seemingly frivolous and energy-expensive behavior? The nature of animal play is a deep psychology mystery, a secret of the animal mind that reveals crucial insights into learning, social bonding, and the evolution of joy and creativity. It is a profound mindfuck that questions our often overly utilitarian view of nature, suggesting that the capacity for joyful, purposeless activity may be a fundamental and deeply adaptive aspect of a complex mind. Contemplating the universal nature of play can be a source of deep, uncomplicated relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin by trying to define what we mean by play. Animal behaviorists have identified several key characteristics. Play is voluntary, it is not forced. It is often exaggerated and seems to borrow actions from other, more serious contexts, like hunting or fighting, but performs them in a modified, less intense, and often reordered way. A play fight among wolf pups involves biting and wrestling, but the bites are inhibited and the goal is not to injure. Play is often repetitive but not rigidly stereotyped. And crucially, it is performed by animals that are not under immediate stress. A hungry or frightened animal will not play. Play seems to be a luxury of a relaxed and secure mind. Why has such a seemingly purposeless behavior evolved across such a wide range of species, particularly in mammals and birds with complex brains? Scientists propose several key adaptive functions, suggesting that play is in fact deeply purposeful, but its purposes are about long-term development, not immediate survival. One of the most important functions of play is practice for the future. The rough-and-tumble play of young predators like lion cubs or wolf pups is a crucial training ground for the skills they will need as adult hunters and fighters. They practice stalking, chasing, pouncing, and wrestling in a safe context where the consequences of failure are not fatal. They are honing their motor skills, building their strength and endurance, and learning the limits of their own bodies. Similarly, object play, like a kitten batting at a ball of yarn or a young crow manipulating a stick, can be a way of developing tool use skills and learning about the physical properties of the world. Play is, in this sense, the primary form of education in the animal kingdom, a school of life, where the curriculum is learned through joyful experimentation. Social play is also absolutely critical for developing social skills and strengthening social bonds. As young animals play fight, they are not just practicing physical skills. They are learning to read complex social signals, to negotiate social hierarchies, to understand the rules of their society, and to build relationships with their peers. They learn how to send and receive play signals like the play bow in dogs, which communicates the message, "What I am about to do is not serious, it's just play." They learn about fairness and reciprocity. If a larger, stronger animal consistently plays too rough and doesn't allow the smaller one to win sometimes, the smaller animal will often refuse to play with it in the future. This teaches the animals to self-handicap and to moderate their own behavior to maintain social relationships. Play is where they learn to be good citizens of their social world. The mindfuck of animal play is its implication for the existence of animal joy. The very existence of this voluntary, intrinsically rewarding behavior strongly suggests that animals are not just unfeeling machines, but are capable of experiencing positive emotional states like pleasure, excitement, and what we can only call fun. While we can never know the precise subjective experience of a playing dolphin, its behavior is so expressive of exuberance and delight that to deny the presence of a corresponding inner feeling seems almost perverse. This questions a purely utilitarian view of evolution, suggesting that natural selection has not just produced efficient survival machines, but has also produced minds that are capable of experiencing joy, a profound and beautiful end in itself. The psychology mystery of play deepens when we consider its role in creativity and innovation. Play is a context in which animals can experiment with new behaviors and new combinations of actions in a low-stakes environment. This can lead to the discovery of new solutions to problems. An animal playing with a stick might accidentally discover a new way to use it as a tool. A group of animals playing with a new object might collectively learn about its properties. Some researchers have argued that play is the very evolutionary root of creativity, flexibility, and innovation. It is the engine of behavioral novelty, allowing animals to develop a wider and more adaptable repertoire of skills than could ever be encoded in their genes alone. The neurological basis of play is also an active area of research. Play seems to be associated with the release of neurochemicals like dopamine and opioids in the brain's reward centers, which is what makes it feel so good and motivating. It also plays a crucial role in brain development, helping to shape the synaptic connections in the cerebellum, for motor control, and the prefrontal cortex, for social decision-making and self-regulation. A childhood rich in play seems to be essential for the healthy development of a complex, social brain. Contemplating the nature of animal play allows us to see a different, more joyful and light-hearted side of the animal mind. We have explored their capacity for grief, for fear, for complex problem-solving. But play reminds us that their inner lives are not just about struggle and survival. They are also about joy, creativity, and the simple, intrinsic pleasure of being alive and interacting with the world. It provides a powerful empathic bridge between our species. The sight of two different species, like a dog and a cat, or even a bear and a wolf, engaging in gentle, joyful play is a powerful testament to a shared, deep-seated capacity for connection that transcends instinctual hostility. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your mind to hold the light and joyful images of animal play. Picture young foxes tumbling in a field, dolphins leaping in the surf, a raven teasing a wolf. Acknowledge that this seemingly purposeless behavior is one of nature's most important inventions, a tool for learning, for bonding, and for creativity. Let go of a purely serious and utilitarian view of the world. Find deep relaxation in the profound secret that the capacity for joy, for fun, for play, is not a human luxury, but a deep, evolutionary heritage that we share with countless other creatures. Resting peacefully, with a quiet sense of the playful, joyful, and creative spirit that animates so much of life on Earth. Do animals have a sense of time? We have journeyed through the intricate landscapes of the animal mind, exploring their intelligence, their emotions, and their social lives. Let us now turn to a more subtle, yet profoundly fundamental, aspect of their subjective experience. We will contemplate the mystery of animal time perception. We humans are immersed in a complex temporal world. We remember our detailed personal past, episodic memory, we plan for our distant future, we measure time with clocks, and we feel its passage in a continuous flow. But what about other animals? Do animals have a sense of time? Do they remember the past and anticipate the future in the same way we do? Or are they, as was once commonly believed, trapped in a kind of eternal present, responding only to the immediate stimuli of the moment? The scientific search for the animal's sense of time is a deep psychology mystery, a mind fuck that questions our own temporal experience and reveals that there may be many different ways to exist in and perceive the flow of time. Contemplating these other temporal realities can be a profound way to ground yourself in your own present moment as you fall asleep. To explore this question, we must first recognize that a sense of time is not a single thing. It encompasses several different abilities. The most basic of these is the ability to perceive duration. Animals clearly possess this. A predator must be able to judge the speed of its prey. A foraging animal must have a sense of how long it has been searching in a particular patch. Laboratory experiments have confirmed this, showing that animals, from rats to pigeons, can be trained to respond differently to different durations of a light or a sound, demonstrating a precise, if short-term, sense of timing. This ability is likely governed by internal biological clocks, the rhythmic patterns of neural firing that serve as the brain's internal metronome. A more complex ability is a sense of cyclical time. Most animals are deeply attuned to the natural rhythms of the world, the daily cycle of light and dark, the monthly cycle of the moon, and the annual cycle of the seasons. These cycles govern their most fundamental behaviors: when they sleep, when they forage, when they migrate, when they reproduce. This is managed by their circadian rhythms, the powerful, internal, 24-hour biological clocks that are synchronized by external cues like sunlight. This deep, embodied attunement to natural cycles is a profound form of temporal intelligence, a way of being perfectly in sync with the rhythms of the planet. But the most profound and controversial question is whether animals possess a sense of mental time travel. This is the ability to consciously and voluntarily remember specific past events, episodic memory, and to imagine and plan for specific future events. This capacity is what allows us to have a rich, narrative sense of our own lives, a self that persists through time. For a long time, this was considered a uniquely human ability. The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, for instance, famously questioned whether a dog could hope for its master's return tomorrow, suggesting such a thought required a complex, linguistic grasp of time that animals lack. However, a growing body of evidence is challenging this view. As we have explored, the caching behavior of scrub jays provides some of the most powerful evidence for future planning in a non-human animal. When a jay chooses to store a specific type of food in a specific place in anticipation of a specific future need, it is acting in a way that is incredibly difficult to explain without attributing to it some capacity to project itself into the future and plan accordingly. This is not just instinct. It is a flexible, context-dependent strategy based on a memory of past conditions and an anticipation of future ones. Similarly, the evidence for episodic-like memory in animals is growing. The scrub jays who remember what they cached, where they cached it, and when they cached it, seem to possess the core components of autobiographical memory. The deep, long-term social memories of elephants, who can recognize individuals and remember specific interactions for decades, also point towards a rich, detailed, and temporally organized memory system. Studies with great apes have also shown that they can plan for future tool use, selecting the correct tool to save for a problem they know they will face later. This suggests that the capacity for mental time travel, while perhaps most highly developed in humans, is not an all-or-nothing ability, but may exist on a continuum across the animal kingdom. The mind-fuck of animal time perception is its challenge to our own, often anxious, relationship with time. Humans are, as some have called us, time-binding creatures. We are constantly dwelling on past regrets and future anxieties. Our sophisticated ability for mental time travel is both a gift and a curse. It allows us to learn, to plan, and to create, but it also allows us to suffer from guilt, from worry, and from the existential dread of our own mortality. Many animals, it seems, may have a different relationship with time. They may be capable of remembering the past and planning for the future when they need to, but they may also possess a greater capacity to exist fully in the present moment. Their consciousness might not be as cluttered with the narrative baggage of past and future. The Zen master's goal of living in the now might be the natural default state of a dog or a cat. The psychology mystery lies in the subjective experience of time in a non-human mind. What does it feel like to be a bird whose metabolic rate is so high that it perceives the world in a kind of slow motion relative to us? Studies have shown that smaller animals with faster metabolisms can perceive more information in a unit of time, which is why a fly can so easily evade a human's hand. They are literally seeing the world at a higher frame rate. What does it feel like to be a creature like a cicada that lives on a 17-year cycle, or a giant tortoise that can live for over 150 years? Their subjective experience of a lifetime must be profoundly different from our own. We are all moving through the same objective physical time, but we may be inhabiting vastly different subjective temporal realities. As you continue to fall asleep, bring your awareness to your own perception of time. Feel the memory of your day, a narrative of the past. Feel the gentle anticipation of tomorrow, an image of the future. Acknowledge that this rich narrative sense of time is a hallmark of the human mind. Now try to imagine the world from a different temporal perspective. The deep, present moment awareness of a cat, resting in a sunbeam, the cyclical, seasonal awareness of a migrating bird, attuned to the ancient rhythms of the earth, the fast-paced, high-resolution world of a fly. Let the mystery of these other temporal realities gently dissolve your own rigid sense of time. Find deep relaxation in the simple act of returning to the present moment, the only time that is ever truly real, resting peacefully, floating calmly in the quiet, timeless now of your own being. The ethics of our relationship with animals. Throughout our long and deep journey into the animal mind, we have been witnesses to a quiet revolution. We have seen the mounting evidence for their complex intelligence, their capacity for self-awareness, their rich emotional lives, their intricate social worlds, their potential for morality and culture. This growing body of scientific knowledge does not just satisfy our curiosity, it forces us to confront a profound and deeply uncomfortable challenge. It compels us to re-examine the very foundation of our relationship with animals. This is the domain of animal ethics. If other animals are not the unfeeling, instinct-driven machines we once thought them to be, but are in fact conscious, sentient beings with their own subjective experiences and interests, what are our moral obligations to them? How should we, as the dominant species on the planet, treat these other minds with whom we share our world? The ethics of our relationship with animals is perhaps the ultimate psychology mystery made manifest, a mindfuck that questions the very morality of our civilization, from the food we eat to the products we use. Contemplating these difficult ethical questions is not meant to induce guilt, but to foster a deeper, more conscious, and more compassionate awareness, inviting deep relaxation through aligning our thoughts with a more considerate vision of our place in the world as you fall asleep. For most of human history, our relationship with animals has been governed by a philosophy of human exceptionalism. Drawing from ancient Greek philosophy and Judeo-Christian theology, Western thought has traditionally placed humanity at the top of a scala naturae, or great chain of being. We were seen as separate from and superior to the animal kingdom, granted dominion over it by virtue of our unique possession of a rational soul, language, or moral agency. In this view, animals were seen primarily as resources, existing for human use. While some traditions cautioned against gratuitous cruelty, the fundamental idea that animal interests were morally insignificant compared to human interests was rarely questioned. The first major philosophical challenge to this view came from the rise of utilitarianism in the 18th and 19th centuries. The philosopher Jeremy Bentham famously argued that the key question for determining a being's moral status is not, can they reason? Nor, can they talk? But, can they suffer? Utilitarianism, with its focus on maximizing well-being and minimizing suffering, suggested that the suffering of any sentient being, human or non-human, is a morally relevant event. This opened the door to considering animal pain and pleasure in our moral calculus. The modern philosopher Peter Singer powerfully developed this line of thought with his concept of speciesism. Singer argues that to ignore or discount the interests of a being simply because it does not belong to our species is a form of prejudice, analogous to racism or sexism. He argues for an equal consideration of interests, meaning that the similar interest of two different beings, for example, the interest in avoiding pain, should be given equal moral weight regardless of their species. A different approach, known as the animal rights view, was most famously championed by the philosopher Tom Regan. Regan argued that certain animals, particularly mentally sophisticated mammals, are what he calls subjects of a life. This means they are not just capable of feeling pleasure and pain, but they have their own individual welfare, their own beliefs, desires, memories, and a sense of their own future. As such, they have inherent value and possess certain moral rights, most fundamentally the right to be treated with respect and the right not to be used merely as a means to our ends. In this view, using animals for food, for research, or for entertainment is a fundamental violation of their rights, regardless of how humanely it is done. This is a deontological, not a utilitarian, argument. It is not about calculating suffering, but about respecting the inherent value and rights of the individual. These philosophical shifts, fueled by the growing scientific evidence of the complexity of the animal mind, create a profound mind-fuck for our modern way of life. Our societies are built upon the systematic use of billions of animals. The practices of industrial agriculture, while providing cheap food, often involve immense and prolonged suffering for the creatures involved. The use of animals in scientific and cosmetic research, while providing benefits to humans, often involves inflicting pain and distress on sentient beings. The entertainment industry, from zoos and circuses to marine parks, raises deep questions about the ethics of confining intelligent, socially complex animals for our amusement. If we take the evidence for animal consciousness and suffering seriously, then the moral legitimacy of these long-standing practices is thrown into question. The psychology mystery is our own profound capacity for cognitive dissonance on this issue. Many of us profess to love animals, we share our homes with them as cherished companions, we feel compassion for their suffering when we see it directly. Yet, we simultaneously participate in, and benefit from, systems that inflict suffering on an industrial scale. This is made possible by a powerful set of psychological mechanisms. We create a sharp mental divide between the animals we consider pets and the animals we consider food. We use moral disengagement, as we've explored in another context, to avoid confronting the reality of where our food comes from. The process is hidden from view, and we use euphemistic language, pork instead of pig, beef instead of cow, to create a psychological distance. We tell ourselves stories that the animals are lesser beings, that their suffering doesn't matter as much, or that these practices are a necessity. The ethical questions are not easy and there are no simple answers. Where do we draw the line? Do insects have the same moral status as chimpanzees? Does a fish have the same rights as a dolphin? How do we balance the interests of humans against the interests of animals when they conflict? These are difficult, nuanced problems. But the growing understanding of the animal mind forces us to recognize that the old, simple answer, that only human interests matter, is no longer philosophically or scientifically tenable. Contemplating the ethics of our relationship with animals is a profound exercise in expanding our moral circle. It is a challenge to our tribalism, asking us to extend our empathy and our sense of justice beyond the boundaries of our own species. It is a call to live more consciously and to take responsibility for the impact of our choices on the other sentient beings who share our world. As you continue to fall asleep, gently hold in your awareness the vast community of non-human minds on this planet. The cow in the field, the pig in the pen, the chimpanzee in the laboratory, the whale in the ocean. Acknowledge their capacity for consciousness, for intelligence, for joy, and for suffering. Contemplate the deep and difficult mystery of our moral obligations to them. You do not need to resolve these complex ethical dilemmas tonight. Simply allow your heart to open to a more compassionate and inclusive perspective. Find deep relaxation in the gentle act of expanding your circle of moral concern. Recognizing that the path of wisdom and kindness involves minimizing the harm we cause to all sentient beings, resting peacefully, with a quiet sense of respect and responsibility for our profound and complex relationship with the animal mind. The mystery of animal tool use and problem solving. For centuries we defined ourselves as Homo faber, man the toolmaker. The ability to create and use tools was seen as a key hallmark of human intelligence, a bright line that separated our species from the rest of the animal kingdom. But as we have observed the animal mind more closely and more patiently, this supposed line has become increasingly blurred, and in many cases has been erased entirely. The discovery of widespread, sophisticated, and often culturally transmitted animal tool use and problem solving is a profound psychology mystery that continues to reshape our understanding of non-human cognition. From chimpanzees using stone hammers to crows bending wire into hooks, the evidence reveals that the capacity for technological innovation is not a human monopoly. This is a mind-fuck that questions one of our most cherished claims to uniqueness, forcing us to see intelligence not as a single human peak, but as a multi-peaked mountain range, with summits of ingenuity found in the most unexpected of places. Contemplating this non-human ingenuity can be a source of deep wonder and relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin by defining what we mean by tool use. In its simplest form, it is the use of an external object to achieve a goal. A sea otter using a rock to smash open a shellfish is a classic example. But the sophistication of animal tool use goes far beyond this. A key distinction is between merely using a found object and actively manufacturing or modifying an object for a specific purpose. This is where the evidence becomes truly compelling. As we've touched upon, our closest relatives, the chimpanzees, are master tool makers. In the wild, different groups have their own tool kits and cultural traditions. They will select stones of a specific weight and shape to use as hammers and anvils for cracking nuts. They will strip leaves from a twig to create a slender probe for fishing for termites. They will use chewed-up leaves as sponges to soak up water from tree hollows. This is not just a single rigid behavior. It is a flexible, goal-directed process that involves foresight, planning, and an understanding of physical causality. They are choosing the right tool for the job. But perhaps the most stunning examples of tool manufacturing come from a creature with a brain so different from our own, the New Caledonian crow. These birds, as we've noted, are masters of tool craft. In their natural habitat, they manufacture a variety of sophisticated tools from the pandanus plant, including stepped tools with a tapered end that are more effective for extracting insects. In the lab, their abilities have proven to be even more astonishing. In one famous series of experiments, a crow was presented with a problem that required a sequence of tool uses. A short stick was provided, which could be used to retrieve a longer stick from a tube, which could then be used to retrieve a piece of food. The crow was able to solve this multi-step problem, demonstrating a capacity for complex, hierarchical planning. Even more remarkably, as we saw, the crow Betty spontaneously bent a piece of wire into a hook to solve a novel problem, an act of genuine innovation that seemed to demonstrate a true understanding of the physical properties required to achieve her goal. The mystery deepens when we consider the cognitive abilities that must underlie such sophisticated problem-solving. It requires more than just trial and error. It seems to involve a form of insight, a eureka moment, where the animal mentally simulates a solution before acting. It requires causal reasoning, the ability to understand how a tool can be used to affect a change in the world. It requires foresight and planning, the ability to hold a goal in mind and execute a series of steps to achieve it. These are all hallmarks of what we consider to be higher-order thinking, and the evidence suggests that these abilities have evolved independently in both primate and avian lineages, a stunning example of convergent cognitive evolution. The mindfuck is the realization that the foundations of human technology, our species' defining characteristic, are present in other minds. The ability to see an object not just for what it is, but for what it could become, to see a stick as a potential probe, a stone as a potential hammer, a wire as a potential hook, is a profound cognitive leap. The fact that this leap has been made by other species, with brains so different from our own, questions the very idea that there is a single linear path to technological intelligence. It suggests that the impulse to create, to innovate, to solve problems by manipulating the external world is a much more fundamental and widespread feature of complex minds than we previously believed. The psychology mystery lies in understanding the precise nature of the animal's mental representation. When a crow fashions a hook, does it have a mental image of the final tool it wants to create? Does it have an abstract concept of hookness? Or is it operating on a more procedural but still highly flexible form of intelligence? As we cannot directly access their subjective experience, we are left to infer their inner world from their clever and often surprising behavior. This research has profound implications for our understanding of human evolution. It suggests that the cognitive building blocks for our own immense technological success were likely present in our distant common ancestors. The unique trajectory of human technology may be less about the invention of a completely new kind of intelligence, and more about the refinement and amplification of a set of cognitive tools that are shared, to varying degrees, with many other creatures. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your mind to hold these images of non-human ingenuity: the chimpanzee carefully selecting a stone hammer, the otter floating on its back using a rock to open its meal, the crow with quiet concentration bending a wire into a perfect hook. Acknowledge the profound intelligence and problem-solving abilities that these actions represent. Let go of the prideful notion that humanity is the sole inventor, the only toolmaker. Find deep relaxation in a more humble and more accurate view of our place in the cognitive world. a world filled with many different kinds of resourceful, innovative, and intelligent minds, resting peacefully, with a deep and quiet respect for the ancient and widely shared spirit of invention. The sentience of fish and invertebrates, the scientific debate. We have journeyed through the minds of creatures we often intuitively grant a degree of consciousness. The great apes, the intelligent crows, the emotional elephants, our canine companions. Let us now push the boundaries of our empathy and our understanding even further, into realms that have traditionally been considered devoid of any inner life. We will now explore the challenging and deeply controversial scientific and philosophical debate surrounding the sentience of fish and invertebrates. Sentience, in its most basic form, is the capacity to feel, to perceive, to experience sensations and emotions, particularly the capacity to feel pain and pleasure. For centuries we have treated fish, insects, crustaceans, and other invertebrates as if they were simple, unfeeling automatons, biological machines that react to stimuli but have no subjective experience. But a growing body of scientific evidence is beginning to challenge this comfortable assumption, revealing complex behaviors and neural systems that suggest the possibility of a far richer inner world. This is a profound psychology mystery, a mind fuck that questions the very location of the line between conscious and non-conscious beings. Contemplating the potential for consciousness in these simpler creatures is a pathway to a more expansive, and perhaps more ethically demanding view of the animal mind as you fall asleep. Let's begin with fish. Our intuitive empathy for fish is often low. They are cold-blooded, they live in an alien aquatic environment, and their faces are not expressive in the mammalian way we are used to reading. This has led to the widespread belief, both in popular culture and for a long time in science, that they do not truly feel pain. The argument was that while they might react to a harmful stimulus, like a hook in the mouth, with a withdrawal reflex, this was a simple, unconscious reaction, lacking the emotional, hurting component of pain that we experience. Their brains, lacking a neocortex like ours, were thought to be too simple to support such a complex subjective state. However, a wave of modern research has turned this view on its head. We now know that fish possess the key neurological structures, nociceptors to detect harm, and brain regions analogous to our own limbic system, necessary for pain perception. Their behavior provides even stronger evidence. When injured, fish exhibit complex behaviors that go far beyond simple reflexes. They will learn to avoid places where they have been hurt. Their breathing rate, opercular beat rate, increases. They will rub the afflicted area against surfaces. Crucially, they will self-administer painkillers when given the opportunity, and when given analgesics by researchers, their abnormal, pain-related behaviors cease, and they return to normal activity. This is powerful evidence that they are not just reacting to a stimulus, but are experiencing a negative, aversive state that they are motivated to alleviate, a state that, for all intents and purposes, looks exactly like what we call pain. The evidence for more complex cognitive and emotional lives in fish is also growing. We have already seen the case of the cleaner wrasse potentially passing the mirror test. Other fish have been shown to have long-term memories, to recognize individual human faces, to use tools, and to engage in complex social strategies of cooperation and deception. The idea of the 3-second memory of a goldfish is a complete myth. This growing body of evidence makes it increasingly difficult to deny them at least a rudimentary form of consciousness. The question becomes even more challenging and philosophically profound when we turn to invertebrates. This is a vast and incredibly diverse group, including insects like bees, crustaceans like crabs and lobsters, and cephalopods like the octopus, whose high intelligence we have already considered. For a long time, it was almost universally assumed that these creatures were non-sentient. But here too the evidence is beginning to mount. Consider the bee. A bee has a tiny brain, but it is capable of remarkable feats of learning, navigation, and communication through its waggle dance. Recent studies have explored their emotional lives. In one experiment, bees were trained to associate a certain scent with a rewarding sugar solution and another with a bitter, unrewarding one. Later, when presented with an ambiguous, new scent, the bees who had been given an unexpected drop of sugar water, a happy surprise, were more likely to optimistically investigate the new scent. The bees who had been agitated or stressed were more likely to pessimistically avoid it. This suggests that bees have something akin to a mood, an emotional state that biases their cognitive judgment in a way that is strikingly similar to humans. Other studies have shown that crustaceans like crabs will learn to avoid a location where they have been shocked, and will even make a trade-off, abandoning a valuable shelter to avoid the risk of a shock, suggesting a complex processing of pain and fear, not just a simple reflex. The mindfuck of this research is its radical expansion of the circle of sentient beings. If fish feel pain, and if even bees might have something like emotions, then the moral landscape of our world becomes infinitely more complex. The number of individual conscious beings on this planet is not just the 8 billion humans and the billions of mammals and birds, but potentially trillions upon trillions of other minds, each with its own subjective experience, its own interest in avoiding pain and seeking well-being. This questions the very foundations of our ethical systems and our daily practices, from commercial fishing and agriculture to how we treat the insects in our own backyards. The psychology mystery is a profound one of analogy and inference. How far can we push it? Where does consciousness begin? Does a worm feel pain? Does a jellyfish have a subjective experience? The further we move from a brain that looks like our own, the harder these questions become, and the more we must rely on subtle behavioral clues. There is no clear, bright line. Instead, there seems to be a vast, mysterious continuum of mind and sentience throughout the animal kingdom. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your awareness to expand outwards and downwards, into the silent, deep oceans and the buzzing meadows. Contemplate the inner world of the fish, its reality a flow of currents and pressures and tastes. Consider the mind of the bee, a world of ultraviolet patterns on flowers and the complex social geometry of the hive. Acknowledge the profound mystery and the deep scientific and philosophical debate surrounding the sentience of these creatures. Let go of your intuitive, mammal-centric biases. Find deep relaxation in a more expansive, more humble, and more compassionate view of life. A view that is open to the possibility that our world is filled with a vast diversity of minds, many of which are far more complex and sensitive than we have ever believed. Resting peacefully with a quiet sense of respect for the vast and still largely unknown community of conscious beings. The limits of anthropomorphism, projecting our minds onto animals. Throughout our journey into the animal mind, we have been engaged in a delicate and necessary balancing act. On one hand, we have sought to break down the old, rigid barriers of human exceptionalism, to recognize the profound evidence for non-human consciousness, intelligence, and emotion. On the other hand, we must be profoundly careful not to fall into the opposite trap, a deep and pervasive cognitive bias that can distort our understanding just as much. This is the challenge of anthropomorphism. The word means attributing human form or characteristics to a non-human entity. In the context of the animal mind, it is our powerful, often unconscious, tendency to project our own uniquely human thoughts, feelings, motivations, and narratives onto other animals. We see a dog wagging its tail and we think happiness. We see a chimpanzee smiling and we think joy. We see two animals fighting and we think hatred or revenge. While these interpretations are sometimes a useful shorthand for our empathy, they can also be a profound form of misunderstanding, a failure to appreciate the true alien nature of a non-human subjective experience. The mystery of anthropomorphism is a deep secret of perception that questions our own ability to see other creatures clearly, revealing how easily our brain creates a reality that is a mirror of our own mind, not theirs. Contemplating these limits is a crucial exercise in intellectual humility, inviting deep relaxation through a wiser, more discerning form of empathy as you fall asleep. Let's begin by acknowledging that anthropomorphism is a natural, and in some ways adaptive, human tendency. It stems from the very same cognitive machinery that allows for theory of mind, our ability to understand other minds. The primary tool we have for understanding another's inner state is our own inner state. When we try to understand another being, we naturally use our own mind as the first and most accessible model. This simulation of another's experience is the very basis of empathy. When applied to other humans who share our basic psychological and neurological blueprint, this is often a highly effective strategy. The problem arises when we apply this human model uncritically to non-human minds. An animal's brain, its sensory world, its evolutionary history, and its social structure are often profoundly different from our own. To assume that their subjective experience is just a simpler version of ours is a profound act of cognitive laziness. Consider the dog who looks guilty when its owner discovers a mess on the floor. The owner often interprets this as the dog feeling the complex moral emotion of guilt, a sign that it knows it did something wrong. However, careful research by canine cognition experts like Alexandra Horowitz has shown that the guilty look in dogs, the averted eyes, the lowered head, the tucked tail, is not a sign of guilt at all. It is a submissive posture, a response to the owner's angry or scolding tone of voice. Dogs will exhibit the exact same guilty look, even if they did not make the mess, as long as their owner is scolding them. We are projecting the complex human moral emotion of guilt onto a simpler, more direct behavior of appeasement and submission in response to perceived anger. Our anthropomorphic interpretation is wrong, and it prevents us from understanding the dog's actual experience. This is a crucial distinction. To deny an animal consciousness or the capacity for pain is a form of human exceptionalism that is scientifically and ethically untenable. But to attribute to them complex, human-specific, narrative-based emotions like jealousy, revenge, or romantic love is a form of anthropomorphism that can be equally unscientific. The challenge is to find the middle path, to appreciate the richness and complexity of their inner lives without simply assuming that their inner lives are just like ours. The mind-fuck of anthropomorphism is its profound subtlety. It feels natural and empathetic to describe animals in human terms, and indeed, it is often a necessary starting point for connection. But it can also be a barrier to deeper understanding. It can prevent us from seeing the animal for what it is, in all its fascinating otherness. It's a paradox. The very tool that allows for empathy, projecting our own feelings, can also be the tool that obscures a truer, deeper empathy, understanding a feeling that is different from our own. The psychology mystery lies in how we can learn to discipline our anthropomorphic tendencies. The scientist and philosopher of animal minds Franz de Waal advocates for a position he calls anthropodenial, the a priori rejection of shared characteristics between humans and animals, as a far greater error than anthropomorphism. He suggests a critical, evidence-based approach. We should start by observing the behavior, and then carefully ask what kind of inner state provides the most parsimonious and powerful explanation for that behavior, always being mindful of the animal's specific biology and evolutionary context. For example, the evidence for grief in elephants is so profound and multifaceted that explaining it as something other than grief requires more complex and less plausible explanations. In this case, the anthropomorphic term seems justified by the evidence. The guilty look in dogs, however, is better explained by the simpler mechanism of a submissive response. This requires us to constantly be aware of the limits of our own perception and imagination. We must be willing to accept that the subjective experience of another creature might be fundamentally alien. As we explored with Nagel's bat, we can never truly know what it is like to perceive the world through echolocation. The dog's world, dominated by smell, is a reality of temporal and spatial information that is almost completely inaccessible to us. To say a dog is happy is a useful and likely accurate shorthand, but the flavor of that happiness, a happiness experienced within an olfactory world, is a profound and beautiful mystery. As you continue to fall asleep, gently bring your awareness to your own human-centric worldview. Acknowledge the natural, automatic tendency of your mind to project its own thoughts, feelings, and narratives onto the non-human world. See this anthropomorphism not as a flaw, but as a starting point for empathy, a sign of your mind's desire to connect. Now, with a sense of gentle curiosity, try to let go of these projections. Imagine the world from a different perspective. The world of the dog, a rich tapestry of smells. The world of the bird, a high-resolution landscape of visual detail and magnetic fields. The world of the octopus, a decentralized consciousness of touch and taste. Find deep relaxation not in assuming you understand these other minds, but in the humble, respectful acknowledgement of their profound mystery, resting peacefully, with a quieter, more discerning, and more authentic sense of connection to the vast and diverse community of the animal mind. The evolution of consciousness across species. We have journeyed through the minds of a diverse array of creatures, witnessing the surprising evidence for their intelligence, emotion, and self-awareness. Let us now zoom out to the grandest possible timescale and ask the ultimate question that unifies our entire exploration. How and why did consciousness evolve? Was it a singular, miraculous event that happened only once in our own lineage? Or is it a more widespread, perhaps even inevitable feature of biological evolution, emerging in different forms and at different times across the vast tree of life? The evolution of consciousness across species is the deepest and most profound psychology mystery of all. It connects the inner world of subjective experience with the outer world of evolutionary biology. It is a mindfuck that questions the very origins of our own minds and forces us to see ourselves not as the pinnacle of a linear progression, but as one branch on a vast, sprawling, and deeply mysterious tree of awareness. Contemplating this grand evolutionary story is a path to a profound sense of connection with all of life, inviting deep relaxation as you fall asleep. To begin, we must acknowledge the immense challenge of this question. Consciousness, as we've discussed, is a private, subjective phenomenon. It does not fossilize. We cannot dig up a dinosaur bone and know what it felt like to be a dinosaur. Therefore, any story about the evolution of consciousness must be a work of careful inference, a reconstruction based on the clues left behind in the comparative anatomy, neurology, genetics, and behavior of living species today. The first major question is, when did consciousness begin? Where on the tree of life did the lights come on for the first time? There are several competing schools of thought. One more conservative view might place the origin of consciousness relatively late, with the evolution of the complex cerebral cortex in mammals and perhaps birds. In this view, consciousness is a rare and precious thing, a product of a specific and highly complex brain architecture. However, a growing number of scientists and philosophers are pushing the origin much further back. The Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness, a landmark statement issued in 2012 by a prominent group of neuroscientists, declared that the evidence strongly indicates that non-human animals, including all mammals and birds, and other creatures like the octopus, possess the neurological substrates of consciousness. They argued that the capacity for subjective experience and intentional behavior is not limited to cortical structures, but is rooted in deeper, more ancient brain regions that we share with many other species. Some thinkers go even further. The biologist Lynn Margulis and others have entertained the idea that a rudimentary form of awareness, a basic sentience, might exist even at the level of single-celled organisms, which exhibit complex, adaptive, and seemingly purposeful behavior. This connects to the philosophical idea of panpsychism, which we have explored in other contexts, the idea that consciousness is a fundamental and ubiquitous feature of the universe. In this most expansive view, evolution did not invent consciousness. It simply amplified and organized it into the increasingly complex forms we see today, from the simple awareness of a bacterium to the complex self-reflection of a human. The mindfuck is realizing that we simply do not know where the line is. Our own existence as conscious beings is a single data point. The rest is inference. But the evolutionary logic of continuity suggests that it is far more likely that consciousness is a spectrum, a graded phenomenon that emerged gradually over millions of years, rather than an all-or-nothing switch that was flipped at some specific point in our primate ancestry. This means that the world has likely been filled with countless forms of subjective experience for hundreds of millions of years. The age of the dinosaurs was not a silent, mindless era. It was likely an age filled with the subjective, feeling worlds of countless conscious beings. This leads to the next mystery. What were the evolutionary pressures that drove the development of more complex forms of consciousness? Why wasn't a simple, reflexive awareness enough? One major theory is that consciousness evolved as a tool for more flexible and adaptive problem-solving. An organism that can create a unified, internal model of its environment and simulate potential future actions within that model has a huge survival advantage over one that can only react with fixed instincts. Consciousness provides a global workspace, a mental stage where information from different senses and memory can be integrated, attended to, and used for deliberate, goal-directed behavior. Another powerful driver was likely the evolution of complex social life. As we've seen, navigating a world of other minds, of friends, rivals, mates, and kin requires a sophisticated cognitive toolkit. The evolution of empathy, theory of mind, and the capacity for communication and cooperation would have been strongly favored in highly social species. Some have even proposed a social brain hypothesis, suggesting that the primary driver for the evolution of large brains and complex intelligence in primates was the computational demand of keeping track of and navigating increasingly complex social dynamics. Our intelligence is, in this view, a social adaptation. Contemplating the evolution of consciousness across species is a profoundly humbling experience. It reveals that our own human mind is not a special creation, but a particular expression of a much larger and more ancient natural process. The tool-making of the crow, the social emotions of the elephant, the linguistic abilities of the dolphin, the self-awareness of the ape, these are not failed attempts to be human. They are alternative, and in their own contexts, equally successful, experiments in the evolution of mind. They are our cognitive cousins, products of the same grand, creative, and mysterious evolutionary unfolding. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your sense of time to expand, to drift back through the deep geological ages of our planet. Picture the first spark of simple sentience in the ancient oceans, the slow, gradual evolution of more complex nervous systems, more sophisticated minds. See the great branching tree of consciousness, with its mammalian branch, its avian branch, its cephalopod branch, each one exploring a different way of being aware. Feel your own consciousness not as an isolated peak, but as one small recent leaf on this immense and ancient tree. Find deep relaxation in this profound sense of connection to all of life. A connection that is not just genetic, but is rooted in the shared mystery of subjective experience. Resting peacefully, a part of the vast, ancient, and still evolving story of consciousness on Earth. How different senses create different realities. Throughout our journey, we have repeatedly touched upon a profound and humbling truth. The subjective experience of other animals is likely profoundly different from our own. Let us now delve into the very source of this difference, the foundation upon which their unique minds are built. We will explore how different senses create different realities. We humans are primarily visual creatures. Our language, our metaphors, our very concept of understanding, we say, "I see what you mean," are all dominated by vision. But this is just one way of perceiving the world. Other animals have evolved to prioritize entirely different sensory channels, creating rich, complex, and deeply alien perceptual worlds. The world of a dog, for example, is not a world of images, but a vibrant, four-dimensional tapestry of smell. The world of a bat is a high-resolution sculpture of echoes. The world of a star-nosed mole is a universe of pure touch. This psychology mystery is a profound mind fuck, a radical decentering of our own human worldview. It questions the very idea of a single objective reality, suggesting instead a multiverse of different species-specific umwelts, or perceptual worlds, all coexisting on the same planet. Contemplating these other realities is a powerful exercise in empathy and imagination, inviting deep relaxation as you fall asleep. Let us try with humility to imagine ourselves into the dog's world of smell. For a human, our sense of smell is a relatively minor accessory to our dominant sense of vision. For a dog, it is the main event. A dog's nose is a marvel of biological engineering, estimated to be anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 times more sensitive than our own. Their brain's olfactory bulb, the region that processes smells, is, proportionally, about 40 times larger than ours. They also possess a second, specialized olfactory organ called the vomeronasal organ, or Jacobson's organ, which detects pheromones and other chemical signals that are completely invisible to us. What does this mean for their subjective experience? It means that when a dog walks down a street, it is not just seeing a series of static objects. It is being immersed in a rich, historical narrative written in scent. A single fire hydrant is not just a physical object. It is a complex social bulletin board, a P-mail server telling the dog in intricate detail which other dogs have been there, when they were there, what their social status is, what their emotional state was, and even what they had recently eaten. The dog's nose allows it to perceive time. It can tell from the fading strength of a scent trail how long ago another creature passed by. It can get a whiff of a person or animal that is still far upwind, in a sense, smelling the future. Their reality is a four-dimensional world where the past and near future are present as a landscape of smells. The mind fuck is to try and imagine this sensory substitution. Imagine if your primary sense was not vision, but an incredibly sophisticated sense of smell. You would see the world in odors. The emotional state of your friends would not be something you infer from their facial expressions. It would be a literal scent in the air, a chemical cloud of joy, fear, or sadness that you could perceive directly. Your memories would be tied to smells, a whiff of a certain scent capable of transporting you back to a specific moment with an intensity that is only a pale shadow in our own experience. The very concept of self might be different, a unique olfactory signature rather than a visual image in a mirror. This is a profoundly different way of being conscious, a different kind of mind inhabiting a different kind of world. Let's consider another alien sensory reality, the world of echolocation used by bats and dolphins. As we've explored, these creatures emit high-frequency sounds and then build a detailed, three-dimensional image of their environment based on the returning echoes. This is not just about detecting obstacles. Echolocation is so precise that a dolphin can likely see the internal structure of another creature, detecting the shape of its bones or even a fetus inside a pregnant female. A bat can perceive the texture of a moth's wings in complete darkness. What is the qualia, the subjective feeling of this sonic world? Is it like a 3D grayscale image? Is it accompanied by other sensory qualities? We have no way of knowing. It is a world built of sound, a perceptual reality as rich and complex as our own visual world, but constructed from an entirely different kind of information. The world of a bird offers yet another perspective. Many birds can perceive ultraviolet light, which is invisible to us. This means that a flower that appears to us as a uniform yellow might, to a bee or a bird, have intricate ultraviolet patterns, nectar guides, pointing the way to the pollen. A male bird that seems drab to us might have brilliantly iridescent UV plumage, making it a spectacular sight to a potential mate. They are literally seeing a layer of color and pattern in the world that is completely hidden from our eyes. Furthermore, birds can sense the Earth's magnetic field, allowing them to navigate with incredible precision over thousands of miles. What does it feel like to have a magnetic sense? Is it a visual line on the horizon? A kind of internal pressure or pull? It is a sixth sense, a way of perceiving the fundamental structure of the planet that we completely lack. These examples are not just biological curiosities, they are profound philosophical tools. They demonstrate, in the most concrete way possible, that the reality your brain creates is just one species-specific version of reality. The world is not a single, objective, fixed thing. It is a vast, multifaceted physical reality that is sampled in countless different ways by countless different kinds of minds. Each species' perceptual system has evolved to tune into the specific slice of reality that is most relevant for its survival. We are all living in the same physical universe, but we are inhabiting profoundly different perceptual worlds. This psychology mystery forces us to a state of radical epistemological humility. It questions our naive realism, the belief that we perceive the world as it is. The world as it is a buzzing, blooming confusion of electromagnetic waves, pressure gradients, and chemical concentrations. Our brains, and the brains of all other animals, are masters of illusion, taking this raw chaos and constructing a stable, meaningful, but ultimately limited and species-specific user interface for navigating it. As you continue to fall asleep, let the familiar contours of your own perceptual world soften and expand. Imagine for a moment that your sense of sight fades and is replaced by the rich, four-dimensional world of smell of a dog. Sense the history of the room, the emotional state of its inhabitants, all written in a language of scent. Now let that fade and imagine perceiving the world through the echoes of a bat's call, a 3D sculpture of pure sound. Acknowledge that the reality you perceive is just one beautiful and limited song in a vast cosmic orchestra of different sensory melodies. Find deep relaxation in this incredible diversity. Let go of the idea that your world is the only world, and rest peacefully floating in a universe of countless, mysterious, and beautifully alien perceptual realities. The concept of animal personhood. Our long and deep journey into the animal mind has led us through the landscapes of their intelligence, their emotions, their cultures, and their alien sensory realities. We have been confronted with a mountain of evidence suggesting that we share this planet with a vast community of complex, conscious beings. This leads us to a final and perhaps most challenging destination on our tour, the legal and philosophical frontier of animal personhood. If other animals are not unthinking machines, but are in fact conscious, self-aware, and autonomous individuals with their own rich inner lives, what does this imply about their moral and legal status? Should they be considered property, as they have been for most of human history? Or should they be granted the fundamental status of persons, with the basic legal rights that this entails? The debate over animal personhood is a profound psychology mystery turned into a real-world ethical and legal battle. It is a mindfuck that questions the very foundations of our legal system and our moral relationship with all non-human life, inviting deep relaxation through contemplating a more just and compassionate future as you fall asleep. Let's begin by understanding the crucial distinction between being a human and being a person. In philosophy and law, human is a biological category. Person, on the other hand, is a moral and legal category. A person is an entity that possesses a certain set of capacities that are considered morally significant, such as consciousness, self-awareness, rationality, autonomy, and the capacity to have rights and duties. Historically, these two categories were assumed to be identical. But the concept of personhood has been a battleground. For centuries, certain groups of humans, slaves, women, indigenous peoples, were denied full personhood and were treated as property. The history of moral progress can be seen as the history of expanding the circle of personhood to include all human beings. The question of animal personhood asks whether this circle should be expanded further, to include non-human animals who demonstrate the relevant capacities. The legal battle for animal personhood is currently being waged by organizations like the Non-Human Rights Project, led by the lawyer Stephen Wise. Their strategy is not to argue for animals to have all the same rights as humans, like the right to vote, but to argue for the recognition of certain fundamental liberty rights, most notably the right to bodily integrity and the right not to be held in captivity as property. They have brought groundbreaking lawsuits on behalf of captive chimpanzees and elephants, arguing that these creatures possess the cognitive and emotional complexity to be considered autonomous persons, who should be released from their confinement to sanctuaries. These arguments are based on the very scientific evidence we have been exploring tonight. They present evidence of the animal's self-awareness, the mirror test, their theory of mind, their complex communication and culture, their long-term memory, and their deep emotional lives. The argument is that if a being possesses these markers of a complex mind, of an autobiographical self who values its own life and freedom, then it is a profound injustice to treat that being as a mere thing, a piece of property that can be owned, bought, and sold. The mindfuck of animal personhood is its radical challenge to the very structure of our legal and economic world. Our society is built upon the legal foundation that animals are property. Our food systems, our entertainment industries, and much of our scientific research are predicated on this status. To grant even a single animal like a chimpanzee the status of a legal person would be a revolutionary act. It would create a crack in the wall that has historically separated humans from all other species. It would open the door to a cascade of further questions. If a chimpanzee can be a person, what about a dolphin? An elephant? An octopus? A pig? A chicken? Where do we draw the line, and based on what criteria? This is a slippery slope that many find deeply threatening to our current way of life. The psychology mystery lies in our own profound cognitive dissonance. We see the evidence of the rich inner lives of animals, we feel empathy for their suffering, yet we live in a world that systematically treats them as objects. The concept of animal personhood forces us to confront this contradiction head-on. It asks us to align our legal and moral systems with our growing scientific understanding of the animal mind. The resistance to this idea is powerful, rooted in centuries of tradition, economic interest, and the deep-seated psychological need to maintain a sense of human exceptionalism. The opponents of animal personhood raise several important arguments. Some argue that personhood requires not just consciousness, but the ability to participate in a social contract, to understand and accept duties and responsibilities, which animals cannot do. Others argue that while animals deserve to be treated humanely and protected from cruelty, an animal welfare position, granting them rights, is a category error that would devalue the unique status of human personhood. The debate is a complex one, with profound philosophical and practical implications. However, the conversation is shifting. Several countries and jurisdictions have begun to recognize animals as sentient beings in their laws, a step away from seeing them as mere property. The scientific evidence for the complexity of the animal mind is becoming so overwhelming that the traditional view is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. As you continue to fall asleep, let your mind gently hold this profound and challenging concept of animal personhood. Contemplate the image of a chimpanzee or an elephant, a being with a deep memory, a complex social life, and a sense of self, living behind bars. Ask yourself with quiet honesty, is this being a thing or a person? Let go of the need for a simple answer, for this is one of the greatest moral and legal challenges of our time. Find deep relaxation not in the comfort of the status quo, but in the compassionate expansion of your own moral imagination, in the possibility of a future where the circle of our respect and our justice is widened to include the other conscious, feeling minds who share our world, resting peacefully with a deep and hopeful sense of our own capacity for moral growth. The intelligence of slime molds, decentralized cognition. We have journeyed far in our exploration of the animal mind, from the complex social intelligence of primates and dolphins to the alien consciousness of the octopus. In all these cases, we have been exploring intelligence that is, in some way, centered in a brain or a complex nervous system. Let us now take a final, radical step into an even stranger realm of cognition, to a life form that has no brain, no neurons, no nervous system whatsoever, yet exhibits behaviors that are uncannily and profoundly intelligent. We will now contemplate the intelligence of slime molds. These seemingly simple, ancient organisms exist for much of their lives as single-celled amoeba, but under certain conditions they can come together to form a single, giant, cooperative superorganism that can solve complex problems, navigate mazes, and create efficient networks. The slime mold is a deep psychology mystery and a profound biological mindfuck. It questions our most fundamental assumption, that intelligence requires a brain. It suggests that cognition might be a far more basic and distributed property of life itself, a form of decentralized cognition that operates on principles we are only just beginning to understand. Let this vision of a brainless mind guide you into a state of deep, elemental relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's focus on the most studied of these creatures, Physarum polycephalum, the many-headed slime mold. In its vegetative state, it is not a mold in the fungal sense, but a plasmodium, a single massive cell containing millions of nuclei that all share a common cytoplasm, streaming and pulsing within a network of protoplasmic tubes. It is a vast, yellow, creeping organism that explores its environment in search of food, primarily bacteria and fungal spores. And the way it searches is a marvel of emergent computational intelligence. One of the most famous experiments demonstrating this intelligence involved recreating a miniature map of the Tokyo rail system. Researchers placed oat flakes, a favorite food of the slime mold, on a petri dish in a pattern that mimicked the locations of major cities around Tokyo. They then introduced the slime mold at the point corresponding to Tokyo itself. The slime mold began to grow outwards, initially exploring in all directions, creating a highly inefficient, redundant network of tubes to connect to all the food sources. But then, over a period of several hours, something remarkable happened. The slime mold began to optimize its network. It strengthened the connections that were most efficient for transporting nutrients and allowed the redundant, less efficient connections to wither and die. The final network that remained was, astonishingly, almost identical in its structure, efficiency, and shock resilience to the actual human-engineered Tokyo subway system. The brainless, single-celled organism had solved a complex network optimization problem, a task that requires significant computational power for human engineers. How does it achieve this? The mechanism is a beautiful example of decentralized cognition and self-organization. The intelligence is not located in any central command nucleus. It is a distributed property of the entire organism. The pulsing flow of protoplasm within its tubes acts as a kind of information processing system. When a tube is connecting to a food source, the protoplasm within it pulses more rapidly and strongly. This stronger, more rhythmic pulsing signals to the rest of the organism that this is an efficient pathway, which encourages the network to reinforce that tube while pruning others. It is a system of local rules and feedback loops that gives rise to a globally intelligent behavior. The slime mold is, in a sense, a biological computer that uses its own body to solve computational problems. The slime mold's abilities do not end there. It can find the shortest path through a maze to reach a food source. It can anticipate periodic events. If it is exposed to a cold, dry pulse of air at regular 10-minute intervals, it will learn to slow down its movement just before the next expected pulse, even if the pulse doesn't come. This demonstrates a rudimentary form of memory and learning, the ability to internalize a temporal pattern. It can even, it seems, make trade-offs and decisions based on risk and reward. When presented with two different food sources, it can assess their relative quality and allocate its resources accordingly. Perhaps most astoundingly, researchers have shown that slime molds can store and share information. In one experiment, a slime mold was taught to navigate across a bridge that had been treated with a bitter but harmless substance it disliked. It learned to overcome its aversion to reach the food. Later, when this educated slime mold was fused with a naive slime mold that had never encountered the substance, the new combined organism remembered the lesson. It hesitated far less in crossing the treated bridge than a purely naive slime mold would. The memory, the learned information, was somehow encoded in the organism's very structure and was transmitted through physical fusion. This is a form of learning and information transfer that is profoundly alien to our own brain-based model. The mind-fuck of the slime mold is its complete demolition of our intuitive link between intelligence, brains, and individuality. It presents us with a creature that is simultaneously a single cell and a large, complex organism. It is a being with no brain, yet it can learn, remember, make decisions, and solve complex optimization problems. It questions the very foundations of cognitive science. If a brain is not necessary for these sophisticated behaviors, then what is intelligence? The slime mold suggests that intelligence might be a far more fundamental property of living systems. a function of how matter and energy are organized and how information is processed, not necessarily a product of specialized neurons. The psychology mystery of the slime mold is profound. What is the subjective experience, if any, of such a creature? Is there a form of distributed brainless consciousness at play? This is a question that pushes the limits of our philosophical and scientific imagination. Most scientists would be hesitant to attribute consciousness to a slime mold, but its complex, adaptive, and seemingly purposeful behavior forces us to be humble about where the line between non-conscious processing and genuine awareness might lie. It is a powerful argument against a simplistic, neuron-centric view of the mind. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your mind to hold the strange and beautiful image of the slime mold, a single vast yellow cell pulsing with a slow rhythmic intelligence. See it exploring its world, solving a maze, building a perfect network, all without a single neuron, without a single thought as we would understand it. Contemplate this profound mystery, a mind that is not an I, but a decentralized we, a form of decentralized cognition. Let this idea dissolve your rigid definitions of intelligence, of mind, of life itself. Find deep relaxation in the sheer alien wonder of this creature, a testament to nature's boundless creativity in finding ways to process information and solve the problems of existence. Resting peacefully, with a new and expanded sense of the vast, mysterious, and often brainless intelligence of the natural world. The emotional bonds between humans and animals. We have spent much of our journey exploring the animal mind from a scientific and philosophical distance, examining their intelligence, their perception, their potential for morality. Let us now turn to the most intimate, most personal, and perhaps most emotionally powerful aspect of our relationship with the non-human world. We will contemplate the profound mystery and beauty of the emotional bonds between humans and animals. For tens of thousands of years, we have shared our lives, our homes, and our hearts with other species, most notably the dog, but also cats, horses, and many others. This interspecies connection is not just a matter of utility or convenience. For many of us, it is a source of profound love, comfort, and companionship. But what is the true nature of this bond? Is it a one-way street with humans projecting their emotions onto a passive recipient? Or is it a genuine two-way emotional relationship, a form of love and friendship that truly crosses the species barrier? The science of this connection reveals a deep psychology mystery, a secret of coevolution that questions the very idea of a uniquely human capacity for deep emotional attachment. Contemplating this bond is a pathway to profound warmth, gratitude, and deep relaxation as you fall asleep. Let's begin with the relationship that has shaped us the most, the bond between humans and dogs. As we've explored, the dog is a product of a long coevolutionary dance with humanity, a process that has shaped not just their bodies but their minds. This is most evident in the remarkable phenomenon of the oxytocin loop. Oxytocin is a powerful hormone and neurotransmitter in mammals that is central to social bonding, trust, and maternal care. In humans, it is released during moments of positive social connection, like a hug between loved ones or a mother gazing at her infant. Remarkable research has shown that this ancient bonding mechanism is activated not just between humans, but between humans and dogs. When a dog and its owner gaze into each other's eyes, the oxytocin levels in both the human and the dog increase significantly. This creates a positive feedback loop of affection and bonding, the very same neurochemical loop that reinforces the bond between a human mother and her child. This is a stunning discovery. It suggests that over thousands of years of domestication, dogs have essentially hijacked our primal parental bonding pathways, and we have hijacked theirs. The love we feel for our dogs and the love they seem to feel for us is not just a sentimental illusion. It has a real, measurable, and ancient neurochemical basis. It is a genuine form of interspecies attachment. The mindfuck of this is its profound implication for the nature of love and connection. It suggests that the capacity for this deep, hormonally driven bond is not a uniquely human trait, but a more general mammalian potential that can, under the right evolutionary circumstances, extend across the species divide. The bond is not less real than a human-human bond. It simply operates through a different, though deeply overlapping, set of communicative channels. This connection is built upon the sophisticated cognitive abilities of dogs to read our emotional cues, which we've already discussed. Their attunement to our tone of voice, our facial expressions, and our scent allows them to be incredibly sensitive emotional barometers. They often seem to know when we are sad, anxious, or happy, and will respond with comforting or celebratory behavior. This creates a powerful feeling of being seen and understood, a core component of any meaningful relationship. But the bond is not limited to dogs. We form deep emotional connections with a wide range of animals. The relationship between humans and horses, for example, is another ancient partnership built on mutual trust and nonverbal communication. The bond with a cat is a different, more subtle dance of affection and independence. Even our relationships with animals we do not own, like the powerful sense of connection and awe we might feel watching a whale breach, or the gentle affection we might feel for the wild birds we feed in our garden, speak to a deep, human yearning for interspecies connection. The psychology mystery here is twofold. First, from our side, why do we have this profound need to connect with non-human minds? Biophilia, a term popularized by the biologist E.O. Wilson, is the hypothesis that humans possess an innate tendency to seek connections with nature and other forms of life. For most of our evolutionary history, we were deeply immersed in the natural world, our survival dependent on a keen understanding of other animals. Perhaps our modern love for pets and our desire to connect with nature is an echo of this ancient, adaptive need, a way of satisfying a deep, instinctual longing in a world that has become increasingly disconnected from the non-human. Our pets, in this view, are ambassadors from a natural world that our subconscious mind deeply misses. The second, and even deeper, mystery is the experience from the animal's perspective. What is the nature of their attachment to us? We can see their behavior, the wagging tail, the gentle purr, the nuzzle of a horse. We can measure the oxytocin. But we can never truly know their subjective experience of this bond. Do they experience an emotion that is equivalent to what we call love? The evidence for deep affection, loyalty, and even grief at the loss of a human companion is incredibly strong. To deny the reality of their emotional bond seems to be an act of profound and willful blindness. But the specific qualitative flavor of that bond, experienced through their unique sensory world and cognitive framework, remains a beautiful and unbridgeable mystery. Contemplating the emotional bonds between humans and animals is a powerful antidote to the loneliness and alienation that can be a feature of modern life. It reminds us that the community of minds, the potential for love and connection, is not limited to our own species. It is a testament to the profound plasticity of emotion and the ability of attachment to cross even the most profound of biological divides. As you continue to fall asleep, allow your mind to fill with a feeling of gentle, warm affection. Perhaps you can bring to mind a beloved pet, past or present. Recall the feeling of their presence, their unconditional acceptance, their simple, profound companionship. Contemplate the mystery of this interspecies bond, this bridge of feeling built across a vast evolutionary distance. Acknowledge the shared neurochemistry, the mutual gaze, the silent communication that creates this connection. Find deep relaxation in this feeling of profound interspecies love. Let it fill you with a sense of warmth and gratitude, resting peacefully, feeling your own place within the vast multi-species family of feeling conscious beings. The future of animal cognition research. As our long journey into the vast and mysterious landscape of the animal mind draws towards its close, let us turn our gaze from what we have learned to what we might yet discover. We will contemplate the future of animal cognition research. For centuries, the inner lives of animals were a closed book, a realm of pure speculation and philosophical debate. But in recent decades, a revolution has occurred. Armed with new technologies, more sophisticated experimental designs, and a greater willingness to challenge our own anthropocentric biases, scientists are beginning to open that book, and its pages are proving to be more complex, more beautiful, and more surprising than we ever imagined. The future of this field promises even more profound revelations, pushing the boundaries of our understanding of consciousness, intelligence, and life itself. The mystery is no longer if animals have rich mental lives, but how we can continue to develop the tools and the empathy to understand them more deeply. Contemplating this unfolding future is a source of profound hope and a pathway to deep relaxation, as we imagine a world with an ever-expanding circle of understanding and compassion as you fall asleep. One of the most exciting frontiers in the future of this research lies in the realm of neuroscience. While we have begun to map the brains of animals and find remarkable similarities to our own, new technologies will allow us to see the animal mind in action with unprecedented detail. Techniques like wireless neurorecording will allow scientists to monitor the brain activity of animals as they move freely and interact naturally in their own environments, rather than in the artificial confines of a laboratory. Imagine being able to see the neural signature of a crow as it solves a complex problem in the wild, or to watch the brain of a dolphin light up as it communicates with its pod. This will provide an incredibly rich new layer of data, helping us to bridge the gap between observable behavior and the underlying cognitive processes. Advanced brain imaging and genetic tools will allow us to compare the neural architectures of different species with greater precision, helping us to understand the different evolutionary paths that can lead to high-level intelligence. Another major frontier is the decoding of animal communication, a field that is being revolutionized by artificial intelligence. As we've explored, projects like the Cetacean Translation Initiative are using advanced machine learning algorithms to analyze massive datasets of whale vocalizations, searching for the hidden grammatical and semantic patterns that have eluded human researchers. This approach is not limited to whales. Similar AI-driven projects are being developed to decode the communication of primates, elephants, and even prairie dogs, who have a surprisingly complex system of calls that seem to describe the specific type, size, and color of a predator. The mindfuck here is that we may be on the verge of creating a kind of Google Translate for the animal kingdom. While a full, nuanced translation of an alien consciousness may be impossible, the potential to understand the basic referential and emotional content of their communication could fundamentally transform our relationship with them. The mystery of what other animals are saying might in our lifetimes begin to be solved. The study of animal culture is also a rapidly expanding field. Long-term observational studies, often spanning multiple generations of animals, are revealing the incredible importance of social learning in shaping animal behavior. In the future, researchers will continue to map these cultural traditions in even greater detail. By combining genetic analysis with behavioral observation, they can more precisely disentangle which behaviors are innate and which are learned, giving us a clearer picture of the interplay of nature and nurture in the animal world. This research will likely reveal that culture, once thought to be a uniquely human trait, is in fact a widespread and vital adaptive strategy used by countless species to thrive in their specific environments. The future of animal cognition research will also force us to become more creative and less biased in our experimental designs. We are moving away from a simple linear model of intelligence, where all animals are judged by how well they perform on human-centric tasks. The future lies in designing species-appropriate tests that probe the unique cognitive strengths of each creature. As we've discussed, this means developing olfactory-based tests for dogs, spatial memory tests for birds, and manipulative, problem-solving tests for the alien mind of the octopus. This more pluralistic approach to intelligence will reveal a much richer and more diverse cognitive landscape, a world of many different kinds of genius. This explosion of new knowledge will inevitably have profound ethical implications. As the scientific evidence for animal sentience, consciousness, and intelligence becomes ever more overwhelming and detailed, the moral and legal arguments for extending them greater protection and even some form of personhood will become more powerful. The future of animal cognition research is therefore inextricably linked to the future of animal ethics. The more we learn about the richness of their inner lives, the more our own moral responsibility towards them grows. The scientific discoveries of the next few decades will likely fuel a profound and necessary societal conversation about our relationship with the other minds who share our planet. The mystery of the animal mind will, in one sense, always remain. As Nagel argued, we can never truly know what it is like to be a bat or any other creature. The subjective experience of another being is forever private. But while we may never fully bridge that subjective gap, the future of this research promises to bring us closer than ever before. It promises a world where we see other animals not as unthinking objects, but as fellow subjects, fellow minds, each with their own unique and valuable way of experiencing existence. As you continue to fall asleep, let your mind fill with a sense of hopeful, curious anticipation. Imagine a future where we can begin to understand the songs of the whales, where we can map the emotional responses of an elephant's brain, where we can appreciate the unique genius of a crow's problem-solving. Acknowledge that our journey into the animal mind has only just begun, and that the discoveries of the future will likely be even more wondrous and surprising than anything we have learned so far. Find deep relaxation in this sense of an unfolding story, a story of expanding knowledge and hopefully expanding compassion, resting peacefully with a sense of profound connection to the vast, mysterious, and still largely unexplored community of consciousness on Earth. Contemplating our place in the web of consciousness. Our long and deep journey is now coming to its close. We have traveled from the philosophical problem of knowing the animal mind to the scientific evidence for its complexity. We have explored the self-aware ape, the tool-making crow, the grieving elephant, the linguistic dolphin, the brainless slime mold. We have confronted the depths of their suffering and the heights of their joy. We are left with a picture of our world that is profoundly different from the one we started with, a world teeming with a vast and diverse spectrum of consciousness. For our final reflection, let us turn the lens one last time back upon ourselves and contemplate our own place in this web of consciousness. If we are not the sole proprietors of mind, if intelligence and subjectivity are widespread features of the natural world, then who are we? What is our role and what is our responsibility in this larger community of minds? This final contemplation is the ultimate secret of our journey, a mindfuck that dissolves the illusion of human separation and invites us into a more humble, more connected, and more responsible way of being. This is the final and deepest path to relaxation, the peace that comes from finding one's true place in the grand, interconnected tapestry of life as you fall asleep. For most of our history, we have seen ourselves as standing apart from and above nature. Our model of existence was a pyramid, a hierarchy with inanimate matter at the bottom, then plants, then lower animals, then higher animals, and finally humanity at the very pinnacle just below the angels and God. This great chain of being was a powerful and comforting story. It gave us a sense of specialness, of dominion, of being the central and most important actors in the cosmic drama. The scientific evidence we have explored tonight completely shatters this pyramid. It replaces it with a different and perhaps more beautiful metaphor, the web of consciousness. Life is not a linear ladder, but a vast, intricate, and branching bush. And consciousness, in all its forms, is not a single peak, but a quality that has blossomed on many different branches of that bush. The intelligence of the octopus, the empathy of the elephant, the culture of the whale, the self-awareness of the ape, these are not lesser versions of our own mind. They are different and equally valid expressions of consciousness, each one a masterpiece of evolution adapted to its own unique way of life. In this web, humanity is not the pinnacle, but just one, albeit very unusual and powerful, node. We are a part of the web, not its master. Our consciousness is not the only kind of consciousness. It is one kind among many. This is a profound act of decentering, a Copernican revolution, for our understanding of life. Just as we once had to learn that the Earth is not the center of the universe, we are now learning that the human mind is not the center of the world's consciousness. The mindfuck of this realization is its profound challenge to our sense of identity. If we are not the rational animal, the toolmaker, the cultural being, the linguistic species, what are we? We are all of those things, but we are not uniquely those things. Our true uniqueness may lie not in any single cognitive capacity, but in the specific combination and degree of these abilities, and most importantly, in the immense power our specific brand of intelligence has given us to shape the planet for good or for ill. This leads us to the ultimate ethical implication of our journey. If we are just one part of a vast, interconnected web of consciousness, then we have a profound responsibility to the health and well-being of the entire web. The other minds on this planet are not just resources for our use. They are our fellow subjects, our evolutionary kin, our co-inhabitants of this shared, sentient world. The mystery is no longer, do they feel? But, how do we live honorably among them? This perspective reframes our entire relationship with the natural world. Environmentalism is no longer just about preserving resources for future human generations. It becomes a matter of interspecies justice, of protecting the homes and the very existence of countless other forms of subjective experience. Animal welfare is no longer just about preventing unnecessary cruelty. It becomes a matter of respecting the autonomy, the social bonds, and the inherent value of other conscious beings. As you now prepare to let go completely into sleep, let your sense of self gently expand and dissolve into this vast web of consciousness. Feel your own mind not as an isolated island, but as a single intricate node in a network that connects you to the dolphin, the elephant, the crow, the dog, and countless other beings, all the way back to the first spark of life on Earth. Acknowledge the profound mystery and beauty of this interconnected tapestry of minds. Find the deepest and most final relaxation in this sense of belonging, a feeling of being at home in a world that is not just a physical stage but a living, breathing, and deeply feeling community. Let go of the burden of human exceptionalism, and rest peacefully as a humble and compassionate member of the vast, mysterious, and beautiful animal mind of planet Earth.